What is up, everybody? I am so excited. Like, I can't even put into words how excited I am. I'm watching the chat box, and people are checking in from literally all around the world. We have every single state in the United States represented here tonight. We've got 6 Canadian provinces. We have 5 countries. Peter Loy, my guy, is watching. It's midnight over in the Netherlands right now. There's people in Germany. There's people in Belgium checking in. Like, this is so, so cool. I'm so, so honored and humbled that each and every single one of you are a part of this here this evening. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Dr. Phil Campbell. You can call me PC. I worked in education for 16 years. I was a teacher, I was a coach, I was an athletic director. Up until 4.5 years ago, I was a principal at a high school just a little bit north of Nashville, Tennessee. And then I took the leap of faith into the world of speaking and educational consulting. And so now what I do is I work with educators and I work with student leaders on how they can make their schools the absolute best places that they can possibly be, the most inclusive places to where everyone feels like they have a place where they belong. This event came together. It was an idea that I had in my head just a little bit before Thanksgiving. And I just started kicking it around a little bit. And I was just thinking about, everybody, so many teachers, so many students are just beat up and just beat down. And it was like, what can we do to provide some hope, to provide some inspiration, to provide some energy as we kick off this new semester going into this new school year? And I was like, why not put an event together? And so I started putting together this dream list of guests, of people that inspire me, that I would want to hear from. And I started reaching out to them one by one, saying, hey, what do you think? Could you give me 10 minutes of your time? And each and every single one of them said yes. And all of a sudden, this thing started to take some legs onto itself. And here we are here tonight. We've got 14 of the most incredible people, in my opinion, on the planet that are going to share just quick 10-minute conversations full of, again, energy and inspiration and hope as we get ready to kick off this new semester. Now, the truth of the matter is this last year has been hard, right? It's been the hardest year of any educator's career in the history of ever. It's been the hardest year in any student's career in the history of ever as well. But every single person that's watching this right now, you're watching this because you're a leader. You're either an educational leader or you're a student leader. And so my question for you is, what I want you to think about is, what kind of leader have you been for the last 9 or 10 months? Because it's easy to be a leader when things are good, right? It's easy to be a fan of the sports team when they're winning. But the true leaders, the great leaders, are the ones that can lead through adversity. And at the end of the day, y'all, every single one of us, from the second that we are born until we take our very last breath on this earth, every single one of us, every single day wants 3 things. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be loved. And so what are you doing as leaders on your campus to make sure that every single person on your campus is seen? What are you doing on your campus to make sure that every single person is heard? What are you doing to make sure that every single person on your campus is loved? That's what leadership is all about. That's what this next couple of hours is going to be all about here as well. Now, you guys are blowing up the chat. When you're doing that, make sure that you're chatting to all panelists and attendees. Make sure you flip that over there in there so that everybody can see all the cool things that you guys are sharing here with the rest of the world. When somebody says something that you like, give them a shout out, give them exclamation marks, whatever the case may be. Let them know that you love them, that you appreciate all these great things that they're talking about here. And so we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right into this thing here, kicking it off with our very first guest. I am so excited to bring to you. I had the opportunity to meet him at his middle school in Virginia, the Fred Lynn Middle School in Virginia here a few years back. And I was just blown away by his energy, by his passion, by everything that he is all about. He's got a book that's out called Next Level Teaching. If you haven't read that yet, that is something that needs to be on your must purchase list in terms of educational reading. And so right now we're going to welcome into the show Jonathan Alsheimer, who's coming to us from Virginia. And Jonathan's in the process of moving into a brand new, beautiful home, dude. And I am so stoked for you. And he's texted me before and he's like, man, I'm trying to get a background, but it's just not working because we're moving. And I'm like, dude, that's just real life, right? Like, that's just human, man. John, what's happening, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm all about this life, man. I'll tell you what, you got it, man. We're trying to get a background rolling for y'all, but you know what? When it comes to technical difficulties or whatever, I'll tell you right now, in the world of education with virtual teaching, in-person, hybrid, the whole 9 yards, if you ain't used to that by now, then you are definitely not in it right now in the grind, man. But I'm loving it. I'm happy to be here. And as I always say, if you're not geared up and fired up and ready to listen to or talk education, man, like, that's our jam. Let's go.
Absolutely, dude. I love it. And like I was saying before you came on, man, I absolutely just love your energy. I love your positivity. And you carry that over into the classroom. And so many of the things I love, you post so many of your lessons and things that you'll do from the classroom. But now in this virtual world, you're taking it virtually too. Let's talk about student engagement. What are maybe 2 or 3 keys for you in terms of keeping your students engaged, whether you're in person or whether you're virtually?
I'll tell you what, right off the bat, I'll say this, like whether you're talking about in-person learning or you're talking about virtual learning, it's about making it authentic and real to the kids. And also this, like we got to understand that kids are going to match our passion and energy, and they're not going to be motivated and excited to learn, engaged in the learning process if we're not motivated and excited to teach. So whether you're standing behind a screen or you're actually in the classroom, like bring it every single day. And on top of that, like what are we doing? What are we bringing to the table to get kids to kind of experience what learning is about, right? Because that's the focus, man. If we can make learning fun, if we can make it an experience, whether it is in person or virtual, it can be done. When you get kids so fired up because they almost like forget for a second that I'm learning, man. When you forget that you're learning because you're just diving into it, you're having fun, we're hitting their interests, and you kind of wrap all this up, and not only are you engaging kids in the learning process, but you're building relationships with them, man. It's like bringing it all together in just one majestic learning experience for everybody involved. Teachers too, man. Teachers too.
And you hit on a big thing right there with those relationships. For me, that's the foundation. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. It's all about those relationships. You've done just some sick things here recently. I've seen you out at a battlefield, and then I've seen some things where your daughter is on for like a newscast and stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about some of those ideas. How do you come up with the creativity? Like, where does a teacher start in terms of coming up with some ideas like that?
Yeah, dude. So first of all, what I always say is like, take what you're already doing and think, man, like, how can I make this a little bit cooler, a little bit more exciting, a little bit better? How can I take a worksheet and turn it into something where kids are doing something? How can I take an experience where kids are sitting down, and how can I get them standing up and moving around the room? And for me right now, I'm teaching fully virtually. So for me, it's like, okay, I got to go the extra mile in this. And regardless, whether it's in the classroom or right now through a computer screen, I look at this, what are their interests? And then how can I take their interests and get them excited about what we're doing? So what I did was we did a Civil War unit, man. And I looked at, okay, kids love entertainment. Kids love video games, man. So how am I going to teach about something that happened so long ago and make it to where kids are actually like, I want to be a part of this classroom? So we turned it into a movie-like experience, man. I dressed up like I was a spy working with the CIA. We had a time machine, and kids were traveling back in time. And I did video setups like that introduced the lessons. And all of a sudden, kids went from like learning about the Civil War, something they've heard of, but now all of a sudden they're traveling back. They're trying to decode stuff and read text and look at all this different stuff, but in a way that's totally different and totally unique. And it literally was a sink or swim moment for me, thinking outside the box, man, and just thinking like, how can I take something and make it totally relevant to their life? Another thing too, with like everything that's going on in the world right now, like the news, man, parents are watching the news all the time. So I thought, you know what, let's turn it up a little bit. And so we were learning about a topic, and I thought, okay, let's do this. I'm going to be a newscaster, and my daughter is going to help me. We're going to be news anchors. And I said to the kids, I go, you're going to be a news reporter, live from the streets back in time, like what's happening in history. And you're going to have to write your own report, which means you're going to have to understand it. And so getting kids to actually dive into the content. And likewise, sometimes we just got to ante up and take on a role. I was teaching about the Wild West and cowboys, man. So I was dressing up like a cowboy. I was outside. It was like 30 degrees. I was freezing to death, but it was something where like I was like, how can I get the kids to want to take on a role if I don't take on a role? And sometimes it's something that it's just like, I felt corny, but it was working. So let's do it, man.
That's part of it, right? You have to be willing to be corny and make a fool of yourself sometimes.
That's right.
There's some student leaders that are watching right now, John, too. And so from a student leadership perspective, what can they do to help with the engagement of their classmates?
I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things as a teacher that we often love, and we always look to our student leaders in the classroom to do this, to build engagement, is, kids oftentimes get sucked into what is everybody else thinking. So often kids are like, man, I don't want to be the first one to get fired up and like jump up and run to the front and say, I'm going to be a part of this. And often, like what I often say to my student leaders is, I want you to take on like that, almost like that TA role. Like I want to be able to call on you, or you to even come to me and say, Mr. Alsheimer, what can I do in class tomorrow to help you? And when you do that, man, I can give you a role where you take on a piece and you bring kids in. And that's another thing too, is how are you as a student leader bringing kids in to get engaged in the learning process, whether it's group work, whatever it is, taking on that leadership role and saying, okay, I'm going to facilitate this. You're going to take on this role. You're going to do this. All right, Mr. Alsheimer, let her rip. Let's rock and roll. And having that energy from students, man, that's infectious, for lack of a better word, man. Kids around you just get hyped up because you're smiling, you're excited. And I'll tell you what, as a teacher, man, I like to see kids in the audience, per se, that are smiling and engaged, and they're asking questions. You have one kid that's smiling, engaged, asking questions. Next thing you know, I have more energy, and then the kids next to you are asking stuff. And all of a sudden now you just lit up a class, and you're a student that oftentimes says, man, I'm just a student. What can I do to help the classroom? Right there, that's it. Your passion, energy for learning lit me up, which got the whole class fired up and ready to go.
That's so true, man. And I love that. And I think, the big thing is, like, you don't just all of a sudden flip the switch and become a leader when you're a quote unquote adult. Right. Like, bring it. I expect leadership out of my son. I expect leadership out of my kids just as much as I expect leadership out of me and out of you. Right. It's been a hard year. Like, there's no beating around the bush with that, we all get that part of it. Right. What's something that you've gotten better at during the last 9-10 months because of this pandemic?
Man, I often say this, like, it sounds so cliche, but like looking at something that's such a big obstacle and trying to find the opportunity or the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And for me, it's been this, like, I'm a really great idea guy. Like, I'm the guy that can get in front of a group of kids and I just I get sucked into it because I act like a kid and they're all fired up. Right. But as a teacher, my whole career, I basically had an expo marker and like a whiteboard. So technology, man, was brand new to me. So when we started like jumping into this virtual learning thing, I was thinking, man, like, this is going to be so tough, all these different platforms. How am I going to get a hold of it? And you know what? I just figured out this. You know what? I'm going to let everything else figure itself out. And I'm going to pick certain things, technology being one of them. And how, if I can get just a little bit better at that, man, I'll tell you what, once I get back into the classroom, man, you just took something that already worked and now I can make it even cooler because I can bring in technology. But that's it for me. Like, looking at the technology standpoint and thinking like, this platform here, if I can get better at those things, then I just became a much better teacher. And it's not about getting better at everything. It's about getting a little bit better at a couple of small things that can change the level and the hype in a classroom.
Absolutely. And that goes right along with being a lifelong learner, right? And because I'm constantly, it's never I made it, it's always what's next. And that's exactly what you're talking about right there. Is what can I do? Just like your book says, next level teaching. What can I do to take not just my teaching, but everything, my leadership, everything that I do in life? What can I do to take those things to the next level? John, dude, I know you got a million things going on. I know you're getting ready, just like the rest of the world, to go back to school tomorrow. I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you do and for your inspiration. Thanks for being a part of the event here tonight, man.
My man, I love it. Thank you so much for having me on. Let's go.
Much love, brother. See you, dude.
Take care.
Jonathan Alsheimer, if you guys don't have his book, again, it's called Next Level Teaching. It is a phenomenal read. Highly recommend that you check it out. Now, chat box, right now, I want to know, what is the latest show that you have binge watched? Everybody's always looking for new shows to watch, especially with COVID going on, all that good stuff. What is the latest show that you have binge watched? I see a lot of Cobra Kai's. Those things just came out. I see Queen's Gambit. That's a big one. You guys are going so fast. I saw Star Trek in there with some Grey's Anatomy, the Virgin. Like I said, everybody is constantly looking for different shows to binge watch. So I'm helping some of y'all. Somebody put The Simpsons in there, going old school right there with that. Bubba Gumpy's Mom Life. I hear you on that. It was Dora the Explorer at my house when Brooks was a little kid. We watched so much Dora. Oh my gosh, and Boots and all that good stuff that went along with that. Bridgerton, Leslie Sarver. What's up, Leslie? How you doing? So good to see you, man. Safety. PC Little League videos. I hear you, Phil. Okay, so you should have some new shows to binge watch on now once this thing is over here tonight. Now, and some of you guys are still pouring some things in there. I sure do appreciate that. Again, just want to say thank you so much to all of you for being a part of this. I didn't know what to expect when we announced this thing, and to have so many different states and countries and provinces represented, like, it means the absolute world to me. Now we're going to hop into our next guest, who is coming to us from New Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. I've done so many events with him. He's a Jocelyn's Renaissance Hall of Famer, somebody that I think the absolute world of. We're going to welcome to the show right now, Stand Tall Steve Bowler, who again is coming in just from outside of Philadelphia. What's up, my guy? And I know, Steve, you're a huge barbecue guy, and you have more grills than I can even count, right?
Yeah.
But something I was thinking about the other day, I love Philly cheesesteaks too, and I don't think I've ever asked you, where is the best place to get a Philly cheesesteak sandwich when I come to Philadelphia?
Oh man, that there's the whole Geno's thing. Truthfully, there's a spot down on South Street. I can't even think of the name of the spot off the top of my head. Theirs is wonderful. Now, when you go there, get ready to be told off, because when you go in, say your order and keep it moving. It's like the soup Nazi for cheesesteaks, man. It's like there's a big guy behind there. He says, just tell me your order. He don't even look at you. And he just keeps going. And surprisingly, at the end, you get exactly what you want. You feel demoralized, but it's a great sandwich. So, it's right on South Street, man. That's what it is.
You come out looking good at the end anyway, right?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love it, man. Well, listen, what I want to talk to you about here for our conversation here, I want to talk to you about two things. I want to start out with teaching virtually. And you did an unbelievable presentation for us. And just with all the different ideas and resources and things for teachers to take their classes online. Give us a quick synopsis. What are the 2 or 3 most important things that teachers need to do in terms of teaching virtually?
Yeah, here it is. Real simple. The number one thing, and here's beyond everything else, and I'll give you a few other ideas, but the number one thing when you're talking about teaching virtually, where you're the educator and you have all these students there, is you have to think about the user experience. That's what they're not remembering. That's what teachers aren't getting. The user experience. Who's the user? The students. The students are the users. The students are the ones who are experiencing this. So a lot of times teachers are thinking about what they're doing, what their situation is on their side of the camera. Think about what it is that they're going to receive when they're coming through the other side of the camera, the user experience, because once you wrap your mind around that, all the other things kind of go into play. Here's some other things. These are just presentational, virtual presentation things that you can think of that will really make all the difference in the world. Number one, your lighting. Get some good lighting. For the love of the almighty, get a ring light. Here, I'm going to show you something real quick. All right, go to Home Depot, get yourself a utility light, get a daytime lamp, a light bulb, put it in there. This is a shower curtain from the dollar store, okay? You wrap it on there with paper clips and it diffuses the lights. Who's got all that money to spend for a ring light, dude? Get one of those, clip it onto your laptop, and then you're looking glowingly and beautiful, okay? So that's the first thing, because remember, you have all these boxes that are on the screen, all right? You want your box to be brighter than anybody else's box, all right? Here's the thing. You want to improve the probability of them paying attention, improve the probability of them connecting with you. Make sure your box is lit. Get yourself a half decent microphone, okay? If you want to do the headset thing, do the headset thing. If you want to get a super duper mic, get a super duper mic. Get one of these. The man that was on just before you, Jonathan, he had one of those. He sounded great. So these are just tiny little things that can be done to enhance the user experience, what they're doing. Utilize that chat, just like you guys right now. Do a countdown. Like if you're going to ask the students all questions, you say to them, on a count of 3, I want everybody to put into the chat the answer. All right. On a count of 3, don't put it in too soon, gang. 1, and then you talk a little bit about your content. 2, talk a little bit more about your content. Are you guys ready? 3, guess how fast they're going to pay attention now, right? Because you got this content, all of a sudden now they're anticipating, they're waiting for it, they're looking for it. Put that one in there. Think about your background. All right. What's going on behind you? All right. Light that puppy up. Get something to make it look nice. Here's a little secret for everybody real quick. Back here, this wood, that's contact paper. It's not even real wood. All right. It looks like I got spent $1 billion. Dollar store frame. That certificate that's up top there, that's a certificate from Starfleet Enterprise. It's not even real. I mean, it's the whole point is you want to make a user experience. When the kids go online and they're looking at videos, when they're looking at things, what are they doing? TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and all those content creators got it set. Then all of a sudden they come to you and it's a dark screen and your camera's way down there and they're looking up your nose. Come on, man. So those are some things that you just got to think about, the user experience.
I love that. Let's shift now to brand. And you talk a lot about your branding as from a school-wide basis, but something you also talk about is your brand as an educator. And so I want you to hit 2 things here. I want you to hit about your brand as an educator, and then for the student leaders who are watching right now too. Why is your brand important? How do you build your brand?
Yeah, here it is. With educators, now I hope everybody's noticing a lot more on your Instagrams, on your TikToks, on your YouTubes. People are actually talking about their personal brand with their businesses. As educators, you need to do the same thing. Why are you going to leave it up to chance of what people think about you as an educator? Take control of that joker, right? You're going to leave it up to the ladies, the moms at the soccer field to talk about you? No, control that joker. Control it. The way that you do that is you systematically identify what it is that's most important to you. And then you systematically drip that information out to the students, to the parents. One of the things I used to do as a building principal is I would tell my teachers at the beginning of the school year, we would all have our meeting together. I said, okay, I want you to write down 10 things that's interesting about you. 10 things. All right. Whatever. It could be about your family, it could be about you, your past. Don't make it embarrassing. 10 things. And then once a month, I would tell my staff, once a month, I want you to send an email out to your families, to your parents, talking about that one of those things. No, nothing about their grades, nothing about what's due, just humanizes you. What you're doing is you're systematically branding yourself to the community, to your parents, right? You're making yourself more realistic. So when they come on board and they're coming to you upset about something that's going on, what's the probability that that upsetness is going to be at a lower level? A lot less, because they feel like they know you. Now let's talk about our students, right? We're talking about that student brand. Same thing, y'all. All right. Think about what it is that you want to be seen, how you want to be seen. I used to say Michelangelo, he would see a block of stone and he would see the image inside, and then he would start chipping away all the pieces to reveal the artwork within. Same thing with you student leaders. Identify in your mind, how do you want to be seen? Do you want to be seen as someone who's thought-provoking? Do you want to be seen as somebody who's a leader? You want to be as somebody who's, maybe you're not the leader type. You're the support, because there's some good people who are in the background supporting. Identify those things, and then systematically, that's the key word, pick a timeline of when you're going to start letting people know, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm about. Your integrity. That's what it's all about. Your integrity of letting people know who you are and what you are. Boom.
So true, man. I spot on. And your integrity. I know we don't have enough time here right now, but if people haven't heard you speak before, they need to make sure that they make it a point to do so, because the story that you tell around integrity, like every single time, and I've heard it probably 50 times, but
Yeah.
you can feel the energy in the room come up and go down, and it's like, oh, and the head starts to nod. I just absolutely love it. Give me 60 seconds. Let's talk barbecue. Let's talk about how many grills you have, and let's talk about what's next on the barbecue menu at Steve Bowler's house.
All right. I have 11 grills, 11 between smokers, griddles, and grills, everything from a little 11-inch Weber up to a monster offset stick burner to a green egg. So, a matter of fact, right now upstairs, we are reheating some barbecued pulled pork that I did during the summer and froze, and we're having it now. Ooh, it's good. So next thing that I'm going to be cooking on the grill, I just did some ribs a little while ago. We did some ham for for Christmas, and then we did turkey for Thanksgiving. But I was looking at something. I wanted to do a duck. I haven't done duck yet, so I might smoke some duck and get the skin real crispy and try it out. It's a little bit more oily, but yeah, just keep an eye on me. Look me up on Facebook. I do videos all the time of all my barbecue, man.
All the time, and I love it. Between you and Steve Gilliland, who's a buddy of mine, who's a middle school principal in Oklahoma, y'all are both posting pictures all the time, and I'm just like, golly, I'm going to waste 300 pounds if I keep following your feeds like this stuff. I love it, man. Steve, thanks so much for the time. Like I said, I told Jonathan the same thing. I know how busy you are. It means the absolute world to me that you were a part of this, and I know like people are blowing the chat box up, man, and loving all the things that you had to say. They're going out to buy contact paper tomorrow, man. Thanks,
That's
dude.
it, baby. You guys, thank you so much for having it. This is great. And what I always say, when you stand tall, you don't think small. When you get all this information, implement it into your life, man. You're standing tall. You can't think less. Do something with it. That's what it is, baby.
I love it. Thank you, Steve. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Later.
All right. Steve Bowler, if you don't have his book, it's called Stand Tall Leadership. It just came out. You can find it on Amazon. I think you can also find it on Barnes and Nobles as well. Another must read. Now, we got a poll question here that we're going to launch. This should be popping up on your screen. We're talking about pizza, and I had this conversation with Phil Boyte here just a few weeks ago, and so I want to hear what you guys think about. Is it permissible to fruit the pizza? And then question number 2, are we going deep dish, we're going Chi-Town, or we're going thin crust, we're going New York City? And so I'm interested to see what the results are here on this. We'll leave this open here for another 10 seconds or so, and it's pretty even right now, it looks like, on the fruiting the pizza. Whereas on the deep dish or the thin crust, looks like we're going the other way. So I'm going to close that out here and share the results. It looks like 54% said, yes, it is permissible to fruit the pizza. So must be a lot of pineapple lovers, I'm assuming, out there. And then deep dish or thin crust, going with the thin crust pizza. I like both. I don't really have a preference there, but some people are diehard and they're just adamant of like, this is it. This is how it's going to be, one way or the other. So There you go, fruiting the pizza in deep dish or thin crust. Now, our next guest that we're going to welcome, one of the best, one of the absolute just rock star educators. She's coming to us from Southern California. She is a middle school teacher down there, a Renaissance coordinator, activities director, Dr. Farah Meadows. I had the opportunity to meet Farah. It's been a few years back at one of the conferences where Mike Smith and I were working, and she came up afterwards and she just blew me away with her passion, with her energy, and with her smile, as you can see on the screen here now. Farah, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm super stoked to have you on here too. And I listened to your podcast that you did with Phil Boyte here a few months back, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And you said in your podcast that you're in the process of changing your name back to honor your parents. Tell me about that.
That is correct. So, you know, for the last 20 years, I've been known as Dr. Meadows, or Meadows with my last name. And people keep coming up to me saying, oh, I love your name, Farah Meadows. It sounds like an actress's name. Where did it come from? And so I said, well, technically Meadows is my ex-husband's last name. And I kept it for this long because I wanted to honor my sons. My older son, unfortunately, passed away and in 2015. And then my younger son is now in college and an adult. And so I sat down with him and I said, would you have a problem with me going back and changing my name? Because I feel like this is who I am. I want to honor my parents. And, you know, when I graduated with my doctorate and I had my stole, I had Ortega on one side and Choate on the other. And I am proud to be a Mexican Irish American. And I wanted to honor them. And my son said, Mom, you do whatever you need to do. Like, this is all about you. And I respect that. So I have a court date coming up, and then the process is getting ready to happen. So my students this year are actually calling me Dr. Farah because we knew this was going to be a weird transition for them. But yes, I will soon be Dr. Farah Ortega-Choate.
Well, I'm very excited for you and for that process to continue. That's awesome stuff. You hit on a few things there that you've had to deal with in your life with the passing of a son, which I wish on no one on the planet. You have overcome so much adversity and so many obstacles, from being a teen parent and having a guidance counselor, school counselor that told you the things that you weren't going to do,
right,
instead of telling you the things that you could do, right? Talk about overcoming adversity. Talk about overcoming obstacles, and how, you know, what is that mentality where it's almost like you against the world? What is your mentality that provides that inspiration for you to continue to achieve?
You know, it's interesting because I feel like my life is a novela, which is a Spanish soap opera. And I think if you only took one part of my life, you would think, oh my God, you could write a book on that. You know, like you touched upon, being a teen mom, being in an abusive relationship to where I was told that if I didn't stay with him, he would kill me. Ultimately, in our 20s, I was no longer with him. I left my abuser in high school. He came into my classroom, drugged me out of class. My teacher came to defend me. He punched my teacher. Later on, when I was in college, he tried to kill his pregnant girlfriend, and ultimately he was killed. And so just that alone, you know, and then I get married and I have, you know, what I believe is this perfect marriage, only to find out that he is now going to leave me. And one of the statements, and by no means is he a bad person or anything at all, but one of the statements that always stuck with me that he said was, well, you're too busy trying to save the world. And he didn't want to stick around for that. And I said, but don't you want to save the world with me? Like, that's what it's about. Like, let's do it together. Be my co-superhero here. And so we went our separate ways. We're still great friends. But, you know, then I was dealing with that loss of a marriage. And then before I could even deal with, they even say, you know, divorce is like a death of a marriage. I couldn't even deal with that because a year and a half later, my older son was killed in a car accident. And so there have been so many things along the way. And I mean, there have literally been moments where I have laid on the floor in my bathroom, just bawling, or sitting in my car in the parking lot at school saying, I can't do this. I can't keep going, and giving myself everything to my students and my sons. But then I know that I have a purpose here. And I think that, you know, there's that saying, and it says, the two most important days in a person's life are the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. And I know without a doubt, I was put on this earth to inspire other people. And, you know, there was a quote I just read about, you know, sometimes a mountain's been placed in front of you, so that you can move it to show other people behind you that it can be done. And so I hope, that year that I went back to teach it after only 3 weeks after my son passed, I remember my mom telling me, I think you taught them a lot more than English that year. I think you taught them how to be a survivor. And by no means do I share my story to downplay other people's grief or whatever they go through, but you have to know, my mom and I had this conversation recently, and she said, what is it? I've had 2 students pass away, one this year and one several years ago, from suicide. I have an uncle who died by suicide. And so she said, what is it that causes someone to say, I'm not going to give up, and then somebody who says, I'm done, I'm throwing in the towel? And have I had those moments? Absolutely. I think we all have those moments where we're like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. But it's that grit inside you that you're like, I'm not giving up. And I think that you have to find people in your life that are going to lift you up. And when you have those moments when you feel like you're falling, that they're going to be there to push you. And I hope to God that I am that person for my students.
And I have zero doubt that you are that person for that student. And Alejandra in the chat box just said, let's save the world together. And I would echo those thoughts as well. And I think that everybody that's watching this and anybody that knows you would echo those thoughts as well. And so you've done so many things. You've changed so many lives. You've got your doctorate degree. You've overcome all this adversity. And like I said earlier, it's never I made it. It's always what's next. Yes. What's next for Dr. Farah?
Oh gosh, I mentioned this before, but I don't know if other people do this, but as a little girl, I would lie in bed at night and stare at my ceiling and think, okay, I'm supposed to do something really, really big and really change lives and reach a lot. So I started off, this is my 20th year of teaching, and at the end of the school year, on the last day of school, I always sit by myself in my classroom when all the students have left, and I cry. And I look back at that year and I think, did I do enough? We only get them for not even a full school year. And so I think, did I do enough to, yes, the teaching them English and history and math, that's important. But more importantly, we've got to teach these kids to be good human beings who are going to go change the world and be change agents, and to give them the tools that when people tell them they can't, like my high school counselor who said I would never go to college and I would never become a teacher. 20 years later, 4 degrees, 22 years of teaching, proved him wrong, right? But there are going to be those people that say you can't. And I hope that I have equipped them with the tools that they need, that when someone says you can't, that they immediately respond with, watch me, because that's what they need. They need that power, that fire within them. And I hope that in the short time that I have with them, that I almost give them a utility belt, that when those things come, they're like, oh, I got this, I got that, and they can attack any obstacle that comes their way. And I was thinking about a speech that I was going to be giving that got canceled because of COVID. And it was for predominantly Latino students in college. And I wanted to tell them, we talk of the world and people wanting to build walls, and I'm not trying to get political here, because sometimes we build our own walls for protection or doubt. And so I said, what if we took all those bricks that people have placed in front of us, or we've even placed, and we've knocked those down, but we take those bricks. And I almost said, like, create 3x5 cards and place them, because now those become the steps to you achieving your dreams. And so, I think everything happens for a reason. And even in those difficult moments, I think that you can learn something from it. We can grow, and I think we become stronger if you take the time to reflect. I think reflection is key. I've always learned, turn your pain into purpose and your wounds into wisdom. That's my girl Oprah, some of her quotes. And I remember when I got the opportunity to travel to Australia with her, and I remember telling her, I said, Oprah, if I wasn't a teacher, I would be a talk show host. I would be somebody, I said, my classroom is my talk show. And 5 days a week, I have an audience of students that I hope to inspire to be good human beings and change the world. And she said, well, Farah, it's funny because my talk show is my classroom. And then she had said one more thing to me. She said, girl, she's like, I think maybe one day you need to make yourself a bigger classroom. And that's my next step. Every morning I pray and I think, okay, God, give me the ability to serve your purpose. I even said, let me be a tool, an instrument from you to say the right things to these young students here today and these educators, and hope that I can inspire. And that is my word for myself: inspire, inspire, inspire. So I hope that I'm doing that with my story, with my students, and with all of you. So PC, go ahead.
Well, Farah, you know that I think the absolute world of you, and I don't know if you have a catchphrase or a mantra yet, but I think "Let's Change the World Together" might be just absolutely perfect for you and what you do and what your mission is.
Thank you so much. And I do. I hope we change it together. And when I see UPC, you inspire me. Your beautiful wife inspires me. These panelists, my students, my sons. So thank you all because I do. I think we are changing the world for the better. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of this, Farah. I love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya. Dr. Farah Meadows, Southern California. She's down in Indio, California, one of the most genuine, authentic people that you will ever meet, and just with an absolute heart of gold. She has a powerful, powerful story that if you haven't ever had the chance to connect with her, please make that a priority in your life, because I promise you that every time you talk to her, that you will become a better person. Now, chat box, this is going to be fun. We're going to create a Spotify playlist. I'm going to put this entire thing together, but I want you to put in the chat box your one go-to pump up jam. What is that song that just gets you going? It comes on, you can't help but sit still. It's Friday night, it's Saturday night, it's go time. For me, it's Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Angus hits that opening riff and it's just like, it's go time, baby. Like, we're about to shut this thing down, right? What is your one pump up, just go to jam? Put those things in the playlist. I will put this thing all together over the next couple of days into a Spotify playlist, and then I'll share it out with each and every single one of you so that you'll have something that you can jam to, whether you're going to school or whether you are coming from school. Now, we're going to keep cruising right on along, and up next is Dr. Joe Sanfelippo. I had the opportunity to hear Joe speak for the very first time this past summer, and I was absolutely just blown away. It was a virtual conference just like this one, and I thought that he was going to come through the computer screen. And I said when he got done, like, I just wanted to headbutt my computer because the guy had so much energy and so much love and so much passion, and I was just like, oh my God. And I told him then, and I told him again just the other day, I said, when this whole COVID thing is over, I am driving to Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and I'm going to give you the biggest bear hug that you've ever had in your entire life. Joe is traveling today, and so he couldn't be a part of our event live, but it was so important to him to be a part of this event here this evening. And so he made it a priority, and we recorded a conversation here just a couple of days ago because he wanted to share some of his passion with you now. Let's take a listen. All right, y'all. Hey, now I am super, super stoked. We're joined by Dr. Joe Sanfelippo, superintendent in Wisconsin. Joe, what's happening, my guy?
Just doing what we can, PC. Just doing what we can. But I think we're ready. Everybody's ready to get to the next level right now.
I hear you. It's like, how can we turn the page? How can we keep moving forward? You know, you spend a lot of your time as the leader of your district. You're inspiring other people, and then you do a lot of work as an author and as a speaker, and you're constantly pouring into other people. But something I love asking people such as yourself, who inspires you? Who are people that you look up to?
Oh man, that's great. I think a lot of times it's just a conglomerate of the people that I'm around all the time, specifically the teachers in this building, because I see what they do on a daily basis and it makes me want to do more. And for me, if I'm here to like clear the path for them and allow them to do the magic that they do, it's really important that I make sure that I connect with them to the point that I know what they want so I can help them to move forward. So that inspires me to always kind of get to know them more and more every day. I was asked about a year and a half ago, one of my teachers asked me, she's like, so what's your vision for us as we move? Like, what's your vision? I'm like, well, first of all, it's not mine. Let's be clear about that. Like, it's ours together and it's yours. I don't know what the vision is, but I can tell you what my hope is. And I said, my hope is that you feel the way that I feel when I talk about you. Because if you feel the way that I feel when I talk about you, then you're going to feel very good. So I get my inspiration from walking out this door and just seeing the incredible things that happen with kids and having my kids come home from school every day and talk about what their teachers are doing for them. And then having my kids model what they see at school because it's had such an impact on them. So I don't look far. Honestly, I don't. You can see a quote, you can read a blog post, you can see a video, you can do whatever. But I think once you walk outside and you can see the real people doing the real work, that's the stuff that wants to bring you back.
And I love everything that you just said there, especially when you're talking about the teachers, because so many teachers, not just in your district, but literally all around the globe in this pandemic have just risen to the challenge and really above it and just absolutely crushed it, right? And there's been so many challenges. There's been a lot of negativity that always comes when there's change and when there's challenges. What is something that you hope is going to change for the better? What is something you would like to see that will be different in the world of education moving forward?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to understand is that we teach way too much. And if we haven't realized that at this point, then I don't think we're ever going to, because if you tried to put all of the stuff that you taught into an online platform when you're seeing the kids half the time, it's just not going to work. You're going to get frustrated. They're going to get frustrated, and you're going to wonder why it isn't going as well as it should. So I think that's what I hope that people take away. The other thing that I hope that people take away is the impact that they've had on the community and what they can actually do for communities when it comes to really investing in kids. And I think at the beginning of this thing, this was our opportunity. I think teachers wanted to, administrators wanted to talk to parents and have parents come to them and say, see, your job is really hard. Your job is, and we wanted to talk to them and say, see how hard our job is? See how hard this is? This is really hard, right? The problem that we have with that is that the people that you want to say that to are never going to tell you that your job is hard. And if you're you could tell them that, our job's hard, right? Our job's hard. They'll be like, yeah, it really wasn't that bad. We had some time. It was good. Now, they're not telling you that they're curled up at the end of the day in a corner with a glass of wine. No, they're not telling you that crying all night, right? They're just going to tell you that it went fine because they're not going to admit to you that they were wrong. So I think the thing that we have to understand is if you're waiting for that validation from people that you're not going to get the validation from, you're going to be waiting a long time and you're going to get frustrated. Don't get frustrated by the work, because the work that you're doing is incredible. It doesn't matter if it's acknowledged in that moment, right? They know, that they know. So I hope that you can kind of keep moving forward with that mentality.
And you're talking about that validation, and that brings me back to when I heard you speak this summer, and I loved every second of it. And one of the things that you said that resonated with me that I literally think about every single day, you said that everyone is someone's child. And as soon as you said that, I immediately thought about my mom, because I'm a 42-year-old dude, and I post something on Instagram, and every single time my mom's going to comment on it, right? Because everyone is someone's child. And so with so many educators, even the rock star educators that are really struggling, especially this school year, what are some ideas? What are some cool things that you've done or that you've seen to recognize and celebrate educators?
Well, I think the first thing that we do here, we live by recognize, acknowledge, extend. That's what we do here. We walk around, we make sure that our mind is in the right spot to recognize the greatness of our colleagues. Then we acknowledge to that colleague that they're great at their work. And a lot of times that's where this ends, where you acknowledge to your colleague that they're good. And then all of a sudden the two people in that moment feel good about being in that moment because somebody told you that you're good at your job. But when you extend the conversation to somebody who wasn't there, to a parent, to a child, to a kid, to a spouse, to somebody that that they're connected to, then all of a sudden they know that they have value outside of this place. And if we have teachers in our space that don't feel like they're valued here and don't feel like they're valued at home, they walk between two places where they spend 90% of their day not feeling any value. And if that's the case, then you have a group of people in front of kids trying to inspire kids who aren't inspired on their own. And that's not fair, because the work that they're doing is crazy incredible, right? So why don't we do, think about how we're making sure that we acknowledge that. And one thing that's really important about that is knowing that the people that we're working with right now have a different set of colleagues if they're working from home. It's not just the two fifth grade teachers that they can walk next door to and talk about, right? It's the 4-year-old that needs breakfast in the morning. It's the kid that needs the diaper change. It's the college kid who's home from college for the year because everybody's in that space. If you don't figure out a way to create value for your staff member with their new colleagues, then they're not going to feel like they're part of everything going on around here. So anytime that you get a chance to do that, there's a much better opportunity for us to move forward with value.
100%, man. Last thing I want to ask you about, we're getting ready to kick off this new semester. Hopefully people are re-energized, recharged, but there's still, that unknown out there of how much longer is this thing going to last. What are you going to say to your administrators and to your teachers, and for that matter, to everybody that's watching this right now? What do you say to them to get this new semester started on the right foot?
I think the first thing that we have to understand is that every interaction that we have with people matters, because every interaction could be the one that they talk about for the rest of their lives. It doesn't matter if it's here, if it's online or whatever. Every chance that you get to influence the opportunities that the people that you're with have, we have to do that. And that's like, I don't love it. I don't like, I get tired of the fact that the idea that every opportunity matters and every conversation that I have could be the one that they talk about for the rest of their lives. But when I acknowledge that it's real, I treat that opportunity differently, and it gives us a chance to really shout about great things down the way. The last thing that I would tell you is that we also live by the idea that we never give up the opportunity to say something great about our school, right? Never. If we live by that, never give up the opportunity to say something great about your school. It's a mindset that you walk into every place, every situation with. And if everybody's doing that in your space, it changes the way that people talk about your world. And when the audience changes for you in the school, your effort changes because you know people are watching and that you have value outside of this place.
So true, man. Like, oh my gosh, I could just spend this entire time talking to you. I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for everything that you do. I started this conversation out asking you with who inspires you. I just want to make sure that you know how much you inspire me, just through these conversations, through your social media presence. And I know I speak for the people that are watching this as well, man. The world of education is a better place because of you and all the value that you bring to it every single day, man. So thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this.
All right, feelings mutual, man. You guys have a great time. Good luck to everybody, and go Crickets.
How about that guy, man? Dr. Joe Sanfelippo. Does he not just have unbelievable energy? Like I said, he's like he's going to come through the computer screen. I absolutely love that guy. If you don't follow him on Twitter, he is a must follow. He does a lot of his 1 minute walk conversations. He literally lives 1 minute like across the street from school, and he'll record a lot of his conversations and he posts them on there. Great, great stuff there. Got another poll that I want to talk about here. This one's titled, "You Serious, Clark?" And so which of the following was the most outrageous thing from 2020? Was it Tiger King? Was it murder hornets? Or was there's no toilet paper? Every time you go to Walmart, Sam's Club, all the shelves are empty. What was the craziest part for you about 2020? Those results are rolling in here. I'm going to leave that open here for about another 5 seconds here. Give everybody a chance to vote on that one here. And it looks like we're going to close that one out. It looks like no toilet paper has the majority there at 64%, followed up there by Tiger King. Like, I watched that show. I don't even know why I watched the show. And I was just like, is this real? Like, people, these are real people that are actually, you know, doing these things here. Absolutely crazy, the things that have happened here in 2020. Now, getting ready to bring on our next guest is coming to us from Ohio. He's an assistant principal at a career and technical education school just outside of Columbus, Ohio. One of my role models, a person that has made me a better man and a better educator, Dwight Carter, who has so many accolades and so many awards. I don't even know where to start when we're talking about him. But Dwight, thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this here tonight. How's everything going for you, buddy?
What's up, PC? Everything is going extremely well. Looking forward to tomorrow. We jump back into second semester. So yeah, things are going real well here in Ohio. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm doing better because I'm getting to talk to you. Now, you have spent a lot of your career at what I would call traditional schools. Yeah, and now for the last couple of years now, you've been at a career technical education high school. Talk about that experience and maybe some things that you've learned and realized about those young men and young women that you didn't truly understand before you were actually there and immersed in it every single day.
Yeah, that's a great question. So students are students. And when students join career tech schools, what I've learned from the people that I work with, and then just doing, you know, having one-on-one conversations with our director, Jackie Cuffle, she's a rock star. Derek Roth, who's also at Fairfield Career Center. So just talking with them and other career tech teachers and educators, the one thing that they say, and I found to be true, is that when students join career tech, they are either running from something or they're running to something. So let me explain that. If they're running from something, their comprehensive school is not necessarily meeting their needs. Either their program that they want doesn't exist there, or the relationships aren't in place, or they may not feel valued, or they just want something different. They want a hands-on, unique experience. Or they're running to something, meaning something has piqued their interest. I'm not going to say passion, because sometimes we misguide students by saying, find something you're passionate about and you never work a day in your life. Well, that's not necessarily true. I think that we have to say kids are exploring options and possible interests. And so from there, if kids are running to that, they're running to a program that they're interested in, they want to know more about, and they can spend several hours a day diving deep into that interest to say, yeah, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. This is something that'll propel me to the next level in terms of college or career or even military. So again, what I've learned is that kids are running to something or they're running from something.
I love that. I love that perspective and that take on that. I think along those lines, so much of school, it's almost like a factory, and we're running these kids through this machine, and they all have to take English, and they all have to take math, and they all have to take whatever, when the truth is they may not necessarily need all of those things for their individualized, whatever it is that they want to do, whatever that passion may be, like what you're talking about. And so I would love to hear your perspective on what do our kids really need to know when they graduate high school?
Great question. Again, the fundamentals are always important. That'll always be the case. And so I think what kids need to know uh, leaving high school is that they need to be critical thinkers, especially today. There is so much information out there in the information age, and stuff is coming at us at a phenomenal, unsurmountable rate. So it's hard to determine what's fact, what's fiction, what's true, what's false. And so our kids need to think critically, but also be able to defend what they believe with research, not just emotion. Feelings are fact, but feelings are real, but they're not fact. So we have to make sure we're teaching our kids, we model, as educators, we model critical thinking. That's number one. Number two, collaboration. In career tech ed, it is a collaborative process, especially in their labs. Kids are working together to solve problems. They're building things, they're tearing things apart. They're trying to figure out the best ways to complete a project. So collaboration is key. So we have critical thinking, collaboration, communication. By communication, I'm really highlighting the emphasis on listening as a communication skill, not just speaking. But in terms of that, they also need to communicate, going back to what Steve said, they have to talk about what is it that they do best? What are their strong skills that they can then promote and push out and sell to someone who is looking for an employee, or a college student, or someone in their class who can provide meet the needs that that student may have. And the fourth thing, which I think is critical, is our students have to be empathetic towards others, not sympathetic. Sympathetic means I feel sorry for you. I see you're in a hole. I'm gonna jump down in there with you. Empathetic means, yes, I see you in a hole. I feel sorry, but I want to do something about it. I'm gonna give you a lifeline, because that empathy is what changes things. Sympathy just keeps us in a negative situation. So we teach our kids to be critical thinkers, collaborators, communicators, but also young adults who are empathetic.
I love that. I was talking with Phil Boyte just the other day, and he was asking me about characteristics that I hope that Brooks leaves home with when he's 18, 19 years old. And empathy was one of them, and then work ethic was the other. And I feel like if I can instill those two things in him, that I've done a pretty decent job as a parent there.
Well, PC, he has a paradox as parents. So I guarantee that he's going to walk away from your home with that skill. Without
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Dwight, tell me something that you're looking forward to in 2021.
I'm looking forward to adjusting to what can become a new normal. My hope is that we don't stress and fight to return back to what was, because what wasn't necessarily working for all kids. We had a lot of gaps. We had a gap in technology. We had a gap in just food. We had a gap in learning. We had a number of gaps. So I would say, let's apply all the things that we've been forced to learn, and now have added those to our tool chest and our toolbox, and then keep those things going into 2021 when we return to, some type of regular norm that we're still waiting to see what that's going to look like. So I hope that we don't rush to go back to the way things were, but we build upon what we've learned, keep moving forward, and then truly make schools the places that we always talk about they should be, which is high rigor, high relevance, deep in relationships, but focused on skill development. That's my hope.
I love it, man. Dwight, thank you so much for taking the time. You know that I think the absolute world of you, man. And it means the world to me that you were a part of the show here tonight. Please tell that beautiful family of yours that I said hello.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, PC.
Yep. See you, Dwight. Have a good one, buddy.
All
All right, Dwight Carter, again, another guy that if you don't follow him on social media, he was and I'm going to say it wrong, but he was the digital principal of the year, I want to say in 2012, and actually had the opportunity because of that to meet the president of the United States. I mean, how unbelievably cool is that to get to do that? So make sure you follow Dwight on social media. He has so many, just the wisdom and the insights that he provides through that. Going to do another poll question here as we lead into our next guest. This one is called "Want to Get Away?" And so for a vacation, if you had to choose one or the other, which would you choose? Would you rather go to the mountains or would you rather go to the beach? And this is another one. I'm torn on this one because I absolutely love the mountains. I think they're beautiful. I like to go to the mountains in East Tennessee, where I'm from, and then the Rockies are absolutely unbelievable as well. But then I'm also a beach guy as well. So we'll leave this open here for about 3 more seconds, give you a chance to vote here for your favorite vacation. And let's display the results. Looks like there's a lot of people with beach on their mind. Maybe it's because it's January. Here in Minnesota, it's like 10 degrees. And so I could use some beach in my life there as well. And speaking of beach, that is a perfect lead in to our next guest, because if he's not on a stage speaking somewhere, there's a good chance that you will find him at the beach. Checking in with us from North Carolina now is one of my best friends, Phil Boyte, who is a speaker. He's an author. He founded Link Crew. I think he does a little bit of everything, and he's just an inspiration to so many people, including myself. And he has this knack. I was talking to him last week or the week before, and he has a knack for just simply sending timely text messages. And it's like when I'm kind of down, when I'm out, when I'm not feeling what's going on, and all of a sudden it's like a message from Phil Boyte will pop up there on my phone, and I'll be like, "Hey, Phil, how's it going, man?" So right now we're going to welcome in Phil to the screen here. I know that I've seen him in the chat box here, and get him going on to the screen. And as I'm going through here, I'm looking at, there's so many people that are chiming in here. Sarah Cowie, what's up? Good to see you. Donish, the opening video that played between Bradley Skinner, which a huge shout out to Bradley Skinner for his part in doing the DJ stuff there. But the video that played between Bradley Skinner and the opening here was put together by a couple of young men, one being Donish Nelson, who is I say recent, he's probably graduated, I think 3 years ago, from Travis High School in Texas. And then Matthew Klein, who graduated from LaSalle Peru High School in Illinois just a few years here back as well. And they helped to put that video together. So I just want to say a big shout out to them as well. If you didn't catch the intro video here with Bradley Skinner, who put together the intro music, he does, his alter ego, I guess you would say, is DJ Phony Stark. And so he can create playlists for you. He can do virtual events. He can come to your school to do events for you as well. He's another guy to make sure that you follow there on social media as well. So DJ Phony Stark, Bradley Skinner, he's a rock star educator out in Wyoming. He's a theater teacher out there. And one of the things that I talk about when I talk about with Bradley Skinner, and I talk about him every single day when I speak, and we're going to talk to Shameka Gerald here in just a little bit about student voice. One of the things that I talk about, Bradley was on my podcast, and he said, we're talking about student voice, and he said, PC, you know what? Our kids are always trying to tell us something. The question is, are you willing to listen? And I think about that literally every single day. And like I said, I talk about it every single day as well. Our kids are always trying to tell us something. The question is, are you willing to listen? And I just absolutely love that. I just think that's so true, because as adults, so many times we get stuck in the things that we think and the things that we believe, and we lose sight of the fact that there's young men and young women on our campus that can contribute and they can bring so much to the things that we're doing. So we'll talk more about student voice here in just a second. But now we're joined by my good friend, Phil Boyte. Phil, what's happening, buddy?
Sorry for the delay. I was out trying to get contact paper. You know, I'm trying to improve the background, and Bowler made it seem so simple. I thought Sara Nilles was going to give me some, but I'm like, man. So, hey, I went and grabbed my picture of Cal Ripken, because, you know, that's part of me. I love his stability and playing 2,000 some games straight. So thanks for having me, PC. It's great to be here. But and all these people I've had a chance to hear, and just Dwight and Steve and Farah, just so many great friends. So thank you. This is awesome.
No, I love it. And I love the baseball picture, because the other day when we talked, I think, I don't know what room that is, if you were in the basement or in your man cave and you had all the bats from all the stadiums. You've actually been to every single Major League Baseball stadium. Talk about that.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I just loved going to ball games. I was a Giants A's fan living in California. And then one of my buddies, he went to every stadium one summer. And he was crazy, 8,000 miles. And I got this idea. So I started going to games when I could, when I was speaking, when I was in visiting. And twice I've had to do baseball tours, like 5 stadiums in a week and stuff like that. And just finally, that was just part of the deal. And I just started picking up mini bats every time I'd go. And my buddy, he built me a bat rack for those bats. So I have 30 some bats because I went to the All-Star Game, World Series, and things like that. So that's just part of my love. Like you got those guitars over your shoulder, and I got baseball bats in the other room. So
there you go. You went to the All-Star Game, the World Series. No big deal, right? Like it's just like a casual day at the park, right?
Hey, you know what? If you're my age, you've got a lot of things. Between your age and my age, you got a lot of gray hair to grow, a lot of experience to create. So.
Oh my gosh. One of the things, Phil, that you always talk about is personal before professional. And I love that because every single time that we talk, even if we are going to talk business, we're always talking about baseball and about life and about you being at the beach and all the great things that are going on. Talk about why that's important and why that personal before professional is important and how educators and student leaders can use that on their campus.
Well, first I got to say to Deborah Hawkins, I'm wearing this for you. We lost a dear friend. Her principal, one of my close friends, Tim Lyles, principal of Sunnyside High School, passed away in September. Probably the most committed principal I ever knew to school culture. There's millions out there, many, and Tim was, and on the back of this shirt, it has all the middle schools and elementary schools that feed his school. And so that's me personal before professional. Why do I think? I think the healthier we are as people, the better educators we are, regardless of our role, whether we're the custodian, Steve moves in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, or we're the superintendent. We just heard from Dwight, who's leading a school in a different way. Farah, you're loving those kids in India, but we're people first. If we can go into that situation the healthiest possible, then, hey, we're going to be better for those kids, especially in a year like this where we do not know what's coming next. Honestly, we think, it's September 3rd, 2021. It's all better. Well, guess what, baby? Let's hang on to each other because we are stronger together.
I love that, Phil. And let's talk about those connections, and let's talk about those connections in a virtual or in a hybrid, or even if they're physical. My buddy Dwayne Patterson, who's watching from Bixby High School, I think you know Dwayne, he said that even though we're together, it's still not together because we have all these protocols and all these things in place. What are some ways, give me 2 minutes on ways that we can build connections and relationships in our current environment?
Well, one thing, 2 minutes, okay. One thing is virtually giving students and staff members permission to share their story. I'm reading a book right now. It's called Life is in the Transitions. And something he says is personal revelation releases soothing chemicals in our brains and activates special systems in our bodies to help us relate better to others. And so whether we're an adult or a student, when we share those stories, whether they're fun stories, whether they're hard stories, they help us share ourselves when people relate. Whether we're doing one at a time where every student virtually or in class tells one thing about themselves. Somebody else in the room is going to go, oh my gosh, I love Cobra Kai, or I love the Jefferson Airstrip. I love going to a Cincinnati Reds baseball game. And the bottom line is we find connections and we start to relate to each other. So one of the activities I love to share because it's easy is called Win, Wish, or Worry. Have people share all three things or one. What's a win you've had recently? What's a wish you have? And what's a worry? Real simple. You can do one at a time, or you can do all three, whether it's a staff meeting, around dinner, with a group of friends. So those are a couple quick, easy ones you could think of.
And what I love about what you just said, Phil, is it's about taking an interest in them. It's not about what you like necessarily. It's about finding out what they like. I had a young man, his name was Jesse. I taught him in a keyboarding class, and easiest class that you can take, right? All you have to do is type. And I couldn't get him to type to save my life, but I figured out somehow that he loved Pokemon. And I just happened to have a couple of packs of Pokemon cards at my house. And so I said, Jesse, guess what? If you get through however many lessons, I've got a pack of Pokemon cards for you. And that kid typed like there was no time. I know nothing about Pokemon, but that's how we connected, right? And it's just little things like that.
Yeah, PC, I think it's beyond our students too. We're concerned about the health of our lives. We have older parents. One of the stories he tells in this book, and I'm not promoting the book, my daughter got it to me for Christmas. I've just loved it. But he talks about when his father started to get Parkinson's, started to affect his depression. And he said he started to ask him questions about his childhood. He said, Dad, what was one of the toys you played with a lot as a little kid? And he said, all of a sudden it started this conversation. And what was some music you loved to listen to? As the next day he asked him, well, imagine if we have someone older in our life and we can get them to share some of that story. here's what it does. It makes us better because for some reason we feel better if the loved ones are feeling better. We go onto that campus, into that Zoom call, whatever we're doing, a little bit healthier. And when we're healthier, well, guess what? Everybody who's influenced us is healthier.
I love that. So true. And I know you do so many things, Phil, for your personal health. You take walks all the time. You like to go out boating. But then the biggest question I have for you right now is, where's the next beach where I'm going to be able to find Phil Boyte?
The next beach. Well, January 13th, we're headed to Siesta Keys, which is Florida. And, guys, that's entrapment. He knew what I was going to say. But, but unless somebody calls and says, hey, we need you at your school. But those of us that are speakers are like, we're living on love because the rest of us are eating like top ramen again. It's just how it is. And we're doing the best we can. We're just loving on each other. And that's why I love this shirt. And Deborah, again, thank you, because this tonight has just been awesome because it's fun to get together.
Well, Phil, again, I just want to say thank you for being a part of it. It's always a great day when I get to see and get to connect with you. And January 13th is actually my birthday weekend, and I'm looking for a place to go. And so I may just hop on your couch, man. Siesta Keys, that'd be cool, right?
I double dare you. Come on, baby. Let's go.
I love it, man. Hey, Phil, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. I love you, buddy.
All right, cheers, my friends.
All right, see you, Phil. All right, Phil Boyte, again, another guy, like just an incredible human being and another person that every single time I talk to him, I feel like I'm a better person, better human being, and a better educator. Chat box question right now. If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? I see pizza. I see a lot of pizza. Oh, I see crab legs. Okay, somebody said elk. Cereal. My mom loves cereal. Cheese, sushi, prime rib. Okay, talking to my heart there. Tacos. Finally, somebody. Garrett, I see you, Garrett, talking to my heart there with that one. Tacos. I'm a taco guy, a taco connoisseur. I love it. Mashed potatoes. You can't go wrong with mashed potatoes there. Oatmeal with apricots. I don't think I've ever had that before. Rachel, that's interesting. Oatmeal with apricots. There you go. Tacos, salmon, pizza, a lot of chocolate. Chocolate talks to my heart too. I love it. One food for the rest of your life. Something for you to think about there. Okay, now we're going to bring in our next guest. I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Shameka Gerald. This has been a few years back. We did a tour stop at Newport News High School and Heritage High School, in Newport News, Virginia. She is absolutely incredible. When you walk onto a campus, there's a feel, there's a vibe that you get. You can tell if the school gets it or if the school doesn't get it. And I walked onto that campus at Heritage High School, and this was a school that gets it. There is absolutely no doubt. And that started from the top there at Heritage High School with Dr. Shameka Gerald. So Shameka is going to join us here right now on the screen, I think. I thought I saw her here just a second ago. There she is. Shameka, how you doing?
I'm here. I'm good. Heritage High School, it's a vibe. That's what the motto should have been.
Right.
But definitely 100% a vibe.
I hear you.
So
I hear you. And so I know that you're feeling under the weather. And so I'm so sorry that you're not feeling well, but thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this here tonight.
no problem. No problem. Just a regular old cold. My son and I woke up this morning not feeling well, no fever or anything, just general old cruddy sick. But I wouldn't miss this for the world. I would do anything for you and for Tara. So I could not miss this. I've been silent all day, resting my voice.
Getting ready as we go along here. I love it. Well, here's what I want to talk to you about is student voice. And in particular, I want to talk to you about how do you get your kids to dream bigger? I watch some shows on ESPN Plus, 30 for 30. And one of my favorite ones, they're always so well produced. And one of the favorite ones that I've seen, it was about Randy Moss, and it was called Rand U. And he went to a high school in a small town in West Virginia. And one of the lines from that episode that just, I think about this every single day as well. There was a young man, or he wasn't a young man, but he had graduated from the same high school as Randy Moss. And he said that graduating from high school is as far as our dreams go here in this town. And it just really made me stop and think about how many of our other kids, how many of our other young men and young women all around the globe share that sentiment, and graduating from high school is as far as their dreams go. How do you empower your kids to dream bigger?
Well, I think it goes back to what Dwight Carter was saying. Feelings are real, but they aren't fact. But then to listen to Phil Boyte come out and say, shut up and listen. Like, I really just think it comes down to teaching them to dream bigger. And in order to do that, you have to shut up and listen, but you also have to help them understand that once you listen to what their feelings are, that their feelings aren't necessarily facts all the time. So you have to teach them. And I think Dwight was saying, if you have a problem, how do you solve the problem? Are you the only person having this problem? That process teaches kids that they can solve problems outside of themselves. Like some things, one of the initiatives that our students wanted to take on was do-rags, do-rags in school. So I told them, well, come up with your plan and I will help you present it to the board. That was one of the initiatives that didn't necessarily take off all the way. But another one that they came up with that stuck was about student mental health. They were worried about their peers. And so they did the legwork and developed a plan. But I had to shut up and listen. And I had to teach them this process of developing a strategy, a plan, and I had to let them get dirty. And so I think in order to teach kids that they can do things beyond the walls of their school, you let them practice with you. And not practice with you in a way that you're guiding all of the work, like you're taking their little hands and writing for them, but really letting them grapple with the hard stuff and being there as a guide. And when the plan doesn't go as planned, if that makes sense, being there to help them kind of get back on track and help them, okay, let's do some error analysis. What happened to get us to this point? And teaching them to think through, then they can see themselves outside of a small structure such as a building. We had 1,200 kids in our building, so that's not small, and it's small in comparison to some other schools, but really just letting them get in there, get dirty, picking them up when they scrape their knee, and showing them that they can have impact larger than what they are doing in this moment right here today. And it extends beyond athletics, extends beyond graduation. So I think that's how you teach them to dream big, is that you're a support system for them and you shut up and get out of the way and let them grapple and get dirty.
I love that. And one of the cool things that you did as well was you had a principals advisory committee, and it was made up of all kinds of different kids on your campus. Talk about that, how you put it together, and the impact that it made on your school.
So our schools, we have a principals advisory group on education called the PAGE group. And in that group, it's generally made up of students from the school, and they're supposed to help principals solve problems. But, traditionally speaking, it's only certain kids because you apply and, you get in. Well, we didn't have an application process. I picked the kids, I hand selected each student, and it was like the hottest ticket in town. If we had a PAGE meeting and it was the beginning of the year, they're like, wait a second, y'all are going, how come I didn't get picked? When can I get on PAGE? But I was very intentional to pick students that represented the demographics of our school. And by that, I meant, who are the kids that are using their superpowers, their leadership skills for evil and not good? Like who needs some redirection so that they can see you are a leader. You may be an unintentional leader, but I need you to be more intentional about that work. So it really was students from every walk of life in our school. We had student athletes. Sometimes we had the valedictorian, sometimes we didn't. There were students that had been in discipline problems that were in an alternative school for a short period of time. They never got kicked off of the group. They still participated. And when they came back, they were at the first meeting. They were a part of this process because their feedback, every student's feedback was so important in us developing what our plans were going to be to make school better. I don't like to say that I'm old, but I'm an adult. And I'm looking at school through the adult lens because I'm a building principal, I'm a teacher, I'm an AP, I'm a custodian, I'm a clerk. Like we still use an adult lens. So hearing their problems, and I wish I would have known about feelings are real, but they're not facts a long time ago, because that would have kind of helped me kind of guide some of that conversation. But helping them understand that their feelings matter, but they're not the facts that are going to drive our work. So how do we work together to develop processes that are going to make people feel better about this work as we do it together?
Powerful, powerful stuff there. Every time we talk about that, it literally gives me chills, because when we talk about student voice, that is giving students a voice. Shameka, last question I want to ask you. Give me 60 seconds. You graduated last year with your doctoral degree, which is an outstanding accomplishment. What inspired you to want to do that?
Um, so to be very transparent, my mother said either I have another baby or I get my doctorate. So I opted, excuse me, for my doctorate. But really, I did it at the end for my kids at Heritage, right? Because I knew I wanted to do it and I started the process, and there were so many times I wanted to quit, but because I had told them I was doing it and they were always asking me about it, it was like, I can't quit now. I can't quit now. I can't quit now. And I did it to show them that no matter what you're doing, there's always going to be a challenge placed on you. There were times that I was sick and I didn't feel well. My son had to come with me to every basketball game, and I would sit at the table and work on my dissertation at the table at the basketball game, working on my dissertation, my son sitting next to me and still trying to watch the game, not getting much dissertation work done. But I really did it to satisfy my mom first. But then when I got into it, it really was to show them that they could do anything. And a doctoral degree isn't a scary process. If you want to do that, I'm walking through the process right now. I let the kids read my dissertation. One kid already awarded me my dissertation at prom. Like, I was working on it at prom and he read it. He was like, oh yeah, like you already got it. And I was like, well, can you come to the committee? But I really did it to prove to them that you can do anything that you put your mind to, no matter how challenging the situation may seem. And I did it. And the only thing that was hard, because I graduated this May, was that we didn't get to, like, they really wanted to celebrate together and we didn't get to do that. So, you know, it was okay, but they know that I finished, and, you know, but I wanted to show them I could do it. And if I can do it, they can do it.
Absolutely. And, you know, we started this conversation off with, how do you get your kids to dream bigger? And I think that you're a perfect example of that, because you're laying that foundation and you're living out those dreams for them and showing them, like, hey, like, look at me, look at the things that I'm doing. And if I can do it, you can do it too, by golly. And I'm going to pull you right along with me, you know? And I think that's where it all starts. Farah said in the chat box, they're always watching, and they are. And those kids are lucky to have you. We're all lucky to have you. And again, I just want to thank you for being a part of this. I know you don't feel well, and so thank you even more for that. And I hope you get to feeling better soon.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Yep. See you, Shameka. All right, that is Dr. Shameka Gerald. She now works in the central office in the Newport News School District in Virginia. Again, another just phenomenal human being and just a great educator. What she did there at Heritage High School, like, it's one of those things, like, you have to see it to believe it. The vibe and the feeling there. I know somebody just put in their hashtag 5800 family. What they created there on that campus it's one of my favorite schools to visit in the entire world. Chat box right now. Next question. If you could visit any city on the planet, what would it be? Someplace that you've never been. If you could visit any city on the planet that you've never been, what would it be? I see Tokyo. I see Cleveland. I see New York. New York's a super cool place. Venice. I talk to my heart there. That's a great one. I love pizza and I love boats. Like, that's Venice. I see Paris. I see London. I see New Orleans, Honolulu, Nashville, talking to my heart there. Singapore, very cool. I see Rome or Venice again, some more New Yorks, Okinawa, Athens. If you could visit anywhere on the planet that you've never been, where would you go? Something to think about there. With that, all right. Now, getting ready, we're going to dive right into our next guest, another one of my absolute best friends. I met this guy, really got to meet him, really got to get to know him in 2016 when I left the education field and got into the speaking field, and we went on tour. I think it was like a 48 city tour. And I owe my speaking career to him, because he took me under his wing and he molded me into the person, into the speaker that I am today. I can't even tell you how many events we've done together and how many thousands of students and educators that we've spoken to together. He's an entrepreneur. He's a nonprofit organization. Like, he's the host of The Harbor. He's got so many different things going, and I'm super stoked right now to welcome in Mike Smith, my buddy, coming in from Lincoln, Nebraska. There he is. What's up, bro?
It's so good to see you, my man. I miss you. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, man. I'm super stoked, man. What's happening?
I'm actually camping in my RV on a dirt bike adventure. I don't know if you can see any of this going on, but Amber and I took a dirt bike adventure to the Red River. We're in, you know where Treads, Sheffield lives?
Yeah.
So we're camping and riding dirt bikes and mini bikes, and I wiped out hard today, and we're filming content and having fun and just being being rowdy kids. It's been fun, but it was snowed in Nebraska, so we had to get out of there. You know how it is.
Deuces, I'm out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we dipped, and now we're camping in our RV with our dog. He's in there. Burton's whining like crazy. You know how he is.
I was gonna say, where's Burton at?
He's in there. He's right up in there. Oh yeah.
He's chilling. Well, thank you for taking the time. I didn't even know like you were out of town on vacation. So thanks for taking the time with us. What I want to talk to you about is ambition versus execution, because everybody on the planet has hopes and goals and dreams, and I'm going to do this. And you talk about it every time you speak about wishing and talking and doing. But the difference between being average and being great is the ability to execute. And you have executed on so many things, from the harbor, from the bay, from Find Your Grind, so many things that you're involved in. What is the secret sauce to being the difference between ambition and dreaming and actually doing and executing?
I think it comes down to a couple things. All those things that you said are so much bigger than I am now. The Bay is massive. You know, there's so many people that work there, and I like literally couldn't get a job at the Bay if I applied for a job at the Bay today, because that's how talented everybody is there around me. And you've met my crew, and you know the people that I surround myself with, and I feel like they're all the people in this, you know, on this chat, and they're all of us. They're A-list, A+ people. And so for me, it boils down to who's on your team, honestly, is who's on your team. And then it kind of boils down to, you know, ideas are great, plans are awesome. You know, you can have Excel spreadsheets, and you guys can come up with a really well-crafted thesis and statement on stuff. But at the end of the day, when you got to get dirt under your fingernails, you're either going to work really, really hard to find a solution to what's broken, or you're just going to get caught up in the minutia of the whole deal. And I watch a lot of people have a lot of passion and a lot of ambition and a lot of dreams and ideas. But when something breaks, or when it doesn't quite go perfect, or when you get punched right in the mouth, and you've been there, when a speech doesn't go great, or a crowd gets too rowdy, or the speakers fail. I mean, how many times has it not gone great on the road? And I don't panic. You don't freak out. You deal with it. You find a solution, and you make the best possible scenario you can. And I think for me, it's been, you know, when you're in the nonprofit world, it's not like we make a lot of money, you know, so we have to figure out how to survive. And so for me, it was always be really creative, be youth focused, be kid first, but build an incredible team and put your team first, and really give your team a chance to grow, give your chance a team to have a voice, give your chance a team to decide. You know, I think when the pandemic hit, this was one thing that was interesting for us, is when the pandemic hit, you know me, PC, the first thing we did as an organization, it was like, what's our core values? What do we actually believe in as an organization? And we went through it, and we literally were like, this is what we're going to do. And we did it, and we did it to a T. And it was like, we leaned on who we are as an organization, who we are as a team. But I think for us, to me, it boils down to executions. It's all about, in the moment, you got to have a governing set of rules when the wheels fall off for how you're going to decide to fix stuff, you know? And it's like, and we always pointed back to our core values at the Bay and Rabble Mill and Skate for Change and everything we're doing. And I honestly think that's what I've always done, is I'm like, what's my North Star? What do I care about? What am I fighting for? And that's always been kind of my value system that I run with. And I think that, I don't know, I just got a tattoo that has a poker chip on my shoulder, and that's the chip on my shoulder. Like, that's what I call it. And to me, it's like, that's a motivator. That's a thing that drives me, and it kind of, you know, and there's nobody that's the chip. It's just the way that I'm wired. But for me, it's like, that's just a rule in my head that we follow. And I think for us, execution so much is about the rules that in your head and the games that you're playing. And I don't know, I just think that our core values were what have made us successful and what has made us great. Because it's not, you know, we don't have money to hire great people. Half our crew doesn't have a degree. You know what I mean? Like, we're not even like the most educated squad. We just really believe in rules and systems of like people first, solutions, not problems, honoring the absent. It's great stuff I've stolen from all you guys, you know?
And it goes back to what Dwight said just a little bit ago. It goes back to work ethic, and it goes back to empathy, because, you know, degree or not, it's just a piece of paper, right? At the end of the day. Yep. But do you have the work ethic? Do you have the empathy? Do you have the drive to execute and to follow through on all these things? Because without that, again, it's just a piece of paper. You spend so much of your time, you're an inspirer of the inspirers, right? What inspires you?
I think I spent the last 8 years on the road speaking and running around and being the inspirer of the inspirers, I guess. And so I think I'm actually, being totally transparent, not to use this as therapy, you know, but this is my time, so I'm gonna do what I want. But no, I think honestly, like, that's an adventure that I'm starting to unpack and take for myself right now. It's like, what does inspire me, and who inspires me? And what I've realized is it's honestly, it's almost always, I get inspired when I'm on an adventure with friends, when I can dive deep and we can talk about real things and you get to break the mold of what you're working on and what you're doing. And my most creative moments have come in these vehicles or on these dirt bikes, or, you know, I rode my dirt bike from Lincoln to Brooklyn in September, you know, and we took Amish country back roads the whole way. And it was like, I had 10 ideas. I thought of the book club and the concept that I wanted to do for it on that trip. And it's like, I think for me, it's like I get inspired by adventure and by risk taking and by being around people who are wired the same. And so I try to put myself in that position to dream and to get inspired and to, you know, get my cup filled up, you know, and like, that's what fills me up. And so I have to really fight for that. And that's kind of how I think I get inspired.
Love it, dude. Last question I want to ask you, and this is actually coming from Chris Reeder at Los Altos High School out in Southern California. He wants to know if you're still running for president in 2024.
You know, I just found all those stickers and I was like, it was so funny when I said it, and it is not funny anymore. It was like, it used to be really funny, but I'm not. There's not a chance I'm running for president in 2024. I'm going to be, nope, I'm definitely not running for president in 2024. Maybe like homeowners association, like treasurer or something like that, but I'm not going for president. That's way too much responsibility for me now. No way.
I'm thinking about Burton running around the White House lawn and all the like crazy stuff that he would get into.
He'd be too snobby about the White House. You know what I mean? He'd have more followers. He'd be too demanding. He's too much. He's so extra.
I remember that one day, I don't know where we were, but I was going for my run. I was like, I'm going to take Burton with me. Right. And so we took off. He's pulling me, you know, he's monster Siberian Husky. And then he just decided that he was done. And he just stopped and just sat down. And I was like, let's go a little further. Nope. Like, we're going back to the truck, man. Like, we're out of here. He's crazy, man.
Oh yeah. He's not a dog. He's just like a roommate who tells you what he wants, you know, and you kind of got to listen because he's a big boy. But yeah, I love him I don't know. I love him, but you know how it is. You love your kid, but I don't know if you like him. Is that real? I don't have any kids, but I feel like that's what I feel about my dog right now. Like I love him, but I don't think I like him, you know?
They have their moments. Yes. Mike, dude, I love you. And I just want to say thanks for being a part of this. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your camping trip, vacation. Be safe. Don't be breaking any bones, anything like that, man. And tell Amber and tell Burton I said hi.
I will. PC, I love you. Tara, I know you're in there somewhere. I love you so much. Campbell's are my favorites.
See you, buddy.
Later, everyone.
Mike Smith, one of the best human beings on the planet. He's done so much, not just for kids, but for educators as well. And, you know, we talk a lot about the legends never make it. And he's a guy who he dreams big, but as big as he dreams, he executes as well. And so he's got some super, super cool projects that are coming down the lane here that I'm excited for him to get to share with all of y'all as well. And again, just want to say thank you to Mike for taking time out of his campsite there. Pretty cool for him to join us there with that. Now, let's see where we're at here. We've got a poll question coming up next. This one, we talked about toilet paper earlier from the craziest things of 2020. And so speaking of toilet paper, when it comes to replacing the toilet paper at your house, what kind of person are you? Is the toilet paper over? Is the toilet paper under? And this is, I don't know, it's weird that it fascinates me, but this is overwhelming results so far right now. And it looks like it's going to be over. I'll leave this up here for about 5 more seconds. There's a few unders. Looks like there's about 15 unders out there. We're going to end that. We'll share the results. That one was overwhelming. 87% said over. I'm with that, 87%. But then there's 13% that said under. So I don't know, to each their own there. Toilet paper, over or under. Up next, one of the nicest, and I think probably the best way to describe this next guest is kind, because I would say that he is one of the biggest kindness advocates on the planet. Houston Kraft. Had the opportunity. Houston joined us for our conference this last summer, and he absolutely just crushed it, just blew my mind. And so I've had the opportunity to establish a relationship with him over the course of the last 6 or 7 months. And again, just one of the most genuine, authentic people on the planet. Houston is actually off the grid right now on a vacation. I'm kind of jealous, but he, again, just like Joe, wanted to be a part of this. It was super important to him. So he joined me a few days ago to share his thoughts on this upcoming semester as well. Let's give it a listen. All right, guys. Hey, listen, I am super stoked right now to be joined by Houston Kraft. Houston is a speaker. He is an author. He is the co-founder of Character Strong. He's got a million things going on. And so first of all, Houston, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today on the show.
Absolutely. I love your Southern charms coming out. You say my name like Houston, which is how my stepsister says it. It's got like that Y-O-U at the beginning. that already has me excited.
There you go, right? It's so funny. So I just moved to Minneapolis about a year and a half ago. And so everywhere I go, it's like you stick out like a sore thumb. But you're not from around here, are you? You know, it's one of those crazy things. Let's talk a little bit about 2020. And even though, you know, with the pandemic and, you know, there's a lot of negative connotations that went with that, but you had a huge year. You guys did so many unbelievable things with Character Strong. And this last November, you had a book come out. And so talk about those experiences and what that's been like for you.
Yeah, was that yesterday or a decade ago? Time's a weird construct right now. As everyone knows, it expands and contracts at will during this current season of our life. 2020, you know, I have a couple mantras during this time. Number one is pain amplifies purpose. So when we know we're going through something really challenging, when we know that there's collective pain, it means there's collective work to do. And that's the thing that's been motivating me through a lot of work. It's been a lot of work. I was just reading this great book talking about asking organizations to point out people who had what they thought was a really good work-life balance. And then they started interviewing those people. And what they discovered was that those people actually worked on average like 8 to 10 hours more per week than other people in the organization. And it really wasn't about time. It was more about people who loved and found fulfillment and continued to like look back on the piece of their work. So we live in a really painful and purposeful time right now because there's so much need. I like to say, like, for student leaders, but for all of us, if our question every day is, how do I meet someone's needs today? I will never be bored, right? I'll never run out of work to do. And that's part of the thing is like, then we start to get overwhelmed. So then the question becomes, how do we target our energy most efficiently? So I think about like, who am I serving? If I have a group of 30 people, can I give myself permission just to meet one person's needs deeply today? I might be able to do some other things educationally, but can I meet one person's needs deeply today? What if I had 5 that I could reach out to for 5 minutes? 25 minutes of my day was specifically about meeting needs. Sometimes our return on time and our return on impact are 2 different things. Like I'll spend probably 3 hours responding to emails, but I could spend a 5-minute message to someone that I know needs something right now. And the impact of those 2 things can be totally different. So pain amplifies purpose, see a need, meet a need are my big mantras this year. And like to your point about the book, which thank you for celebrating the book, my baby, it's about deep kindness. And that's what kindness is. It's not about meeting wants, it's about meeting legitimate needs. And I talk about deep kindness as being distinct from the fluffy, the surface level stuff. It's listening to someone well enough to identify what they need. And what's cool about this technological world is like, it's actually given us more inroads to listen better, right? We have the opportunity to listen in mass. We have chat boxes that allow us for a lot more conversations simultaneously. We have a lot more tools where students are able to submit things like Flipgrid or through Google Forms where we're getting inbound data and we can gather listening. We can collect listening more efficiently than ever before, which allows us then in turn to meet people's needs and practice the deep kindness that I wrote the book about. I was tired of the service level stuff. So I'm thinking, how do we do that better, more richly and more intentionally? And as educators, like that's like your world, you know, like that's what we get to do every day is meet meaningful needs.
So true, man. So true. And so one of the things I would love to hear your perspective on, you know, you were a leadership kiddo in high school, and that's what led you to get involved in what you do now and continuing to make an impact on leadership students and leadership educators. Out of this pandemic, what do you hope to see that changes for the better in the world of education?
You know, I think the interesting thing about the circumstances of the world right now is it hasn't changed what we need. It's just revealed what we already needed. I feel like the work that we get to do at Character Strong with social emotional learning and character development, like you just like that, the idea of social emotional learning has suddenly become one of the most searched for things. It's suddenly something that people are looking for resources for everywhere. How do we help our young people cope? How do we help our educators cope and navigate stressful times? And the natural narrative there is, oh, because of this situation, now we have a greater need for it. My argument is no, because of this situation, we've peeled back what was already there, which is we've always had a need for this. We just weren't making the time, or we weren't disrupted enough, right? We weren't uncomfortable enough to actually change. I'll never forget, I was going through like a leadership coaching thing. And the first question she asked was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think of yourself as a leader? I'm like, yeah, probably a 7. She's like, okay, so what most people say, right? Not high enough to be arrogant and not low enough to change. Like, cool. So education has been at like the maximum, a 7 for a long time. And so what I want to see change is, now that we have more information, now that we've been forced into the discomfort of reckoning with where we're actually at, we have the opportunity to put first things first. And to me, that's like well-being, right? Nothing works if we aren't well.
Those priorities, you know, and you're spot on with that. It's the mental health, it's, you know, the equity conversation that has now come to the forefront in much of the same light. Like, you're exactly right, man. And so last thing I want to talk to you about, or that I want you to share here, we've got about 3 minutes, and educators and students are getting ready to go back and tackle this new semester. What advice, what input, what wisdom can you share with them to inspire them to tackle that thing head on?
Systems over goals. Systems over goals is something is an internal saying and mantra we have at Character Strong, which is if you have goals are the ideals, or the things that you want to aim towards. But if you don't have the systems to create those micro habits and to help you make those choices with consistency over time, you're going to continually just be playing catch up. And what we know about a pandemic, anything that is this largely disruptive, is it's broken most of our routines. That's what makes this time so overwhelming and exhausting, is we're making more choices per day than we have in a really long time. So we're more exhausted at the end of the day and feel like we still haven't gotten as much done. So what are the systems you can build into your world? Whether that's calendaring in time for the blank thing that you're supposed to do, whether that's having an accountability partner that's messaging you each day. It's creating the systems if you want to go towards goals. And for me, I believe those systems need to focus on self-care and relationships, self-care, relationships, self-care and relationships. So whatever you have to do to make 5 minutes per day for self-care and for relationships, those are the sorts of things that are going to set the stage for all kinds of goodness on the other side.
I love it, man. Well, Houston, I just want to say thanks again for joining us, for being a part of this event here today. And just thank you for all that you do. I know that I've got a ton of my friends that think the absolute world of you and the inspiration that you provide to them. And I would echo those thoughts as well. I love seeing the posts and all the different things that you and your team create on social media, because we all need that, right? Like, just as human beings, like you talked about, this pandemic has really brought to the forefront that we're missing those connections. And so again, I just sincerely appreciate you and your time and everything that you do, not only for the world of education, but just for the world in general, because the world's a better place because of you being in it, man.
Thank you, man. Purposeful work to be done.
Houston Kraft, what an absolute just gem of a human being. If you don't have his book, Deep Kindness, like, open up a new tab, go to Amazon and buy that thing right now. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal book, phenomenal read, just by a phenomenal human being. Chat box right now. Next question that we're going to talk about. Favorite movie quote. What is your favorite movie quote? And as you're putting those in, I'm going to tell you what mine is. Mine is from a movie called Gladiator. And in Gladiator, there's a scene where they tell Russell Crowe, if you win the crowd, you win your freedom. So many times when we get done speaking, when we get done with events, I'll have student leaders come up, I'll have educators come up and say, well, I love all this stuff, but it would never work because my principal would never go for it, because my superintendent would never go for it, right? I always tell them the exact same thing. If you win the crowd, you win your freedom. In schools, the kids, the young men, the young women, our students, that's our crowd. And if you can win the hearts and minds of those young men and young women, it's game over. It doesn't matter what a principal thinks. It doesn't matter what a counselor thinks. It doesn't matter what the grouchy math teacher down the hallway thinks, right? If you win the hearts and minds of those young men and young women, it's game over. Win the crowd, you win your freedom. I see some great ones that are coming in here through that. Keep putting those things in the chat box. We're going to stay on schedule here, and we're going to welcome in our next guest. We're talking about winning the crowd, winning your freedom, and empowering students. And when we're talking about that, one of the people that I think of is Sara Nilles. Sara Nilles is a former educator, and then she was the director of the Oregon Student Council Association, and now she's recently taken a new job with Work to Be Well, and I'm super excited for Sara to get to join us. Sara, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And you've had like an adventure. Like I've seen all these pictures and postings. You've been hiking all over the place. Like share a little bit about some of the cool things you've been doing here lately.
Yeah, well, exactly. Houston led into that perfectly. He talked about self-care and relationships. And so I think as I've transitioned with, 10 years teaching and state director, that's been something that I've really learned in these last 20 years of not taking care of myself to the best of my ability to now realizing that it's my time. And so I actually, our family invested in a motorhome and so gave us some freedom to, especially right now with our COVID, the motorhome has given us some safety in travel and we've been able to adventure. So when Mike was talking to in his motorhome, I brought me back to all the times and adventures that we've been in and being able to work while on the road as well right now. So yeah, I love travel and motorhome's a great way to go.
So awesome. Yeah, I've seen some of your pictures and it's like, oh man, I'm super jealous. And it's so, yeah, some beautiful, beautiful stuff that you've gotten to see and experience here lately. Let's talk about empowering youth. And you've spent so many years of your time giving kids a voice and empowering them. How do you actually do that though? And we talked a little bit about this with Shameka earlier. It's one, student voice gets thrown around all the time. How do you give your students a voice? But you have been successful in actually empowering them to create change on their campus and in their communities. What are some keys to making that happen?
Yeah, when Shameka was talking, I actually have multiple notes from her speaking because she was right on. I mean, absolutely right on. And I love how she said, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. It's the process. And that was exactly, it's always been my philosophy is that, and along with Phil and everyone else talking about listen. So I guess that's always been where I've started listening. What do the students, what are they wanting? What are they needing? And what do they want to do? And how do they want to serve? And going with the servant leadership. And so, and then for me, it's finding the people to connect them with. I don't have all the answers. I don't. So for example, recently, last year, probably our biggest, is that our students wanted to move forward with mental health. They wanted more mental health legislation for our schools. They wanted, a lot of, students were saying that they were lying when they didn't feel, if they had anxiety or they had depression, they were lying and say they had a cold because sick days were only that, sick days. They weren't, mental health days did not count. And so I listened to that. Why are you lying to be, to fake sick? And so instead, I don't know how to pass a bill. I mean, school rocks, but I saw the video in the 80s, but I didn't know how. So when they said they wanted to do this, it's exactly that. Like, okay, who do I know that knows how to do this? Who can I connect them with? And how can we make this happen? And so anytime, and then there's so many examples of times that they say, this is important to us. And then it's just a matter of connecting them with the right people. So connected them with lobbyists. And House Bill 2191 passed in 2019. And now in Oregon, mental health and sick days are the same.
That's so awesome. And like, yeah, for kids to have an influence over something like that, like that's as powerful as it gets. There's a number of student leaders that are watching this right now, Sara, and a lot of times they get frustrated because they feel like nobody will listen to them. No adult on their campus will listen to them. So what are maybe 2 or 3 tips that you would give to the student leaders to help them to create change on their campus?
That's a great question. And I feel that. And I think that's what made my position with OASC as state director so powerful, is that I got to support students who felt that way. So they, and we have amazing advisors. So I do have a lot of advisors in Oregon that were listening to them, but sometimes they didn't feel that maybe. And so find an organization that can help you. So depending on what you're passionate about. So if that's looking to so many outside organizations, big brothers, big sisters, there's Work to Be Well right now. If you're interested in mental health, depending on what their interest, if they're into skating, then they could Skate for Change and finding their mentors there. So depending on what the subject is, finding people who are doing that work outside of your school. And that's what's so cool about our students right now is I'm seeing them on social media and Instagram, especially finding those groups of people like-minded where they can be inspired and be motivated. And so recently I'm working with students across the nation on mental health and Work to Be Well. And that's because they found us on social media. So again, they've reached out beyond their school setting, and they found people across the world that will listen to them, and that there's power in numbers, which we've also learned from, hashtag I Can Help has also been a huge source of inspiration for empowering youth for me, and letting our youth know that there's power in numbers. Find your people. And the benefit is, when I was in school, it was harder to do that. And I think there's so many tools at our students' fingertips right now to find people beyond their school walls or their bedroom walls with their home right now.
Absolutely. The power of social media, right? And the power of connections. Give me 60 seconds. The first time that I met you, you were driving an SUV, and you opened the trunk of your SUV, and sitting back there was Jax the therapy dog. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the best thing of all time. And so you've talked a little bit about mental health. Talk about Jax, talk about how that came to be, and talk about the impact that Jax makes on everybody that you work with.
Yeah, so it actually turned out where my parents help at our state conferences. So I'm putting on these state conferences. My parents are there. It's a family affair. It takes all of us to, volunteer and put on these events. And so I needed a place for Jack. So, and turns out I needed him to be a therapy dog in order to attend these events. But he also just naturally has that ability. So what happened is, when he was a puppy, he came to summer camp just because my parents stopped by to say hi, and they had the puppy, and I instantly saw what he was doing to help others, and how students would he would roll over and be like, here's my belly, when students would approach him, and you could see what it did for them. And so I went through the trainings, went through the classes, and worked really hard to get him certified as a therapy dog. We have to renew every 2 years. Which has been a little hard right now, but he's taken a semi-retirement. He'll come back, but just a little break. And so it's just, and then schools have been calling like crazy to have Jax be at their school. So it's been fun, and it's worked with what I do. So
it just ties in absolutely perfect. And he's just like a gorgeous dog as well. And it's just like, like I said, you pop the trunk open, and I was like, oh, this is so awesome, man. I love it.
Going everywhere, which also, that was a benefit of the motorhome. Going back to where we started, it was how do I travel with the dog? The motorhome's the way to go. So true. Well, Sara, thank you for making the time to be with us here tonight. Thank you for everything that you do, like the number of lives that you have impacted and that you will continue to impact. It's exponential. And I just want to say I'm appreciative of you as a friend and as a person and as an educator, and thankful for all that you do for the world. Well, thank you so much. I have literally so many notes just from sitting here today and enjoying the people that you've connected us with tonight. So thank you. Awesome. Very cool. Thanks again for being here, being a part of this event here. Ladies and gentlemen, Sara Nilles, again, you can find her on social media platforms as well. She works with Work to Be Well now and does just some absolutely incredible stuff with that organization and around mental health, which is a huge, huge deal right now. Now, we're ready for our next question, which we talked about favorite foods earlier, and I told you that mine is tacos. So this one is titled, Did Someone Say Tacos? And so when it comes to tacos, which is better, flour tortillas or corn tortillas? And then question number 2, when it comes to cheese dip or queso in your region where you live, what color is the cheese dip? Is it white or is it orange? And I asked that question because I have a theory on this. I love Mexican food. Like I said, I love tacos, but the cheese dip in Tennessee and in most places in the South is white. And I don't know what kind of cheese it is, but it's white and I love it. It's so good. But it's like once I get west of the Mississippi, the cheese dip or the queso becomes orange. And I'm just not as big of a fan of it. Now, it's not like chili con queso. It's not like that. It's like cheese dip, but it's orange cheese. And it's like, it's not nearly as good as my white cheese. And so I don't know. I wanted to hear the different perspectives here on that. We're going to close that one out. I'll show you the results. It looks like flour tortillas won 60-40. I'm with you on that. Unless it's a good, like a homemade corn tortilla, then I'm going to go corn. Like if I'm in San Diego or some of those places where they make those corn tortillas, like right there, right along the road. Oh my God. Like, you're talking to my heart there with that. And most of you say that your cheese dip is white. I don't know. It's kind of close, almost 50-50 there with that. I don't know. Something interesting there to talk about with that. Now, we're getting ready to go into our next guest. This guy, I was reaching out. I was looking for student speakers for this summer's conference, and I was connected to him by Ann Postaway, who's the director of National Student Council. And she said, you've got to connect with Carlos Ojeda Jr. And I was like, all right, I'll connect with him. And so we did. We had a Zoom call. We had about an hour
chat set up or whatever. And like, I'm telling you, within 20 minutes, the guy has me crying. Like, I'm just in tears. The emotion, the power, the impact that he has. And so he leads a company called Cool Speak. I am so excited right now to welcome to the show Carlos Ojeda Jr. He's joining us from just outside of New York. Chew, what's up, my guy?
What's up, PC? I'm loving it. I got, just like Sarah, I've got tons of notes. I can't even keep up with the chat. This has been absolutely awesome. I just got back from vacation with the family. So I needed I felt a little run down, needed a vacay from the vacay. But this just got me fired up, and I'm full of energy right now. So thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, no, yeah. Well, thank you for saying yes. I sent the email out and I told you, I think you were tied up doing something that week or whatever, and you didn't respond. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy, right? And be that nag. But I sent you another email and I was like, dude, I really, really want you. And you wrote back and said yes. And I was like, yes. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're a part of this. You talk a lot about your voice is your power. You share a story about when you were a young man going to school and you got put into the wrong classes. You were put into ESL classes because of the way that you look and the stereotypes that go with that and this whole thing that happened with your dad. Share that story with us, please.
Well, you know, my parents were Puerto Rican. My mother spoke mostly Spanish and no English. My father speaks mostly English, no Spanish, which it's a secret to a long, successful marriage, because when they argued with each other, they never really understood each other. But I grew up in this bicultural world, right, where I spoke Spanish because that was my language and my culture, mi idioma, right? And I spoke English because that was my language and my culture. And so it seemed normal to me. It seemed like this was what I was. I lived in America and I'm an American citizen. This is what, but my family moved me from Newark, New Jersey, all the way out to Reading, Pennsylvania. And the culture shock was immediately. I did not see a lot of people that looked like me or talked like me. And when they looked at my mom, they put me in ESL. And I sat there. I made tons of friends. You know, my one friend was Jamaican, which was very humorous because I was like, I don't know if you know this, but Jamaicans speak English. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? He's like, I don't know, man. They just put me here. And you know, I was stuck there. And then I went home to my father and I told him that I was there. And my dad said, well, we're going to have to fix this. And my father was a maintenance man. He was a simple guy. You know, he worked hard. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. But when it came to his child, he was like a lion, right? He wanted to defend. So even though he was probably anxious, he went and he spoke for me. He championed for me. He said, give this kid a test. He doesn't belong where you have him. I used to test because I spoke English and Spanish, wrote English and Spanish, read English and Spanish, and they apologized to my dad and they told me they were going to put me in regular classes, and I was on cloud nine, PT. I was like, yes, you know, we punked the teachers. This is my school. And as I was walking out, thinking I had won, my dad hit me in the back of the head, and he said, you can't let people put you in a corner. Can't let them take your voice, because your voice is your power. Because with that voice, you ask questions. Questions give you answers. Answers give you knowledge, and knowledge gives you power. And throughout my entire life, my father would always say that. Whenever I was scared to ask a question, he told me, your voice is your power. Whenever something went wrong or someone picked on me, he'd say, don't come to me. Go back out there. Your voice is your power. Let it be heard. Until it became embedded in me. Even in my darkest moments, I can hear my father. I wear his fingerprint on my necklace, and I can literally hear him. Your voice is your power. So I find that it's important, especially now with everything that's going on with the pandemic, to give kids that power, that their voice is their power. Because with the social isolation, with the pandemic, with the social justice movement, the elections, everything, we've been really good at giving kids spaces to learn, but we haven't given them enough spaces to heal, enough spaces for them to speak, to share. And I am vigilant with my kids, almost to the point that I know them. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on? And letting them speak. I even let them hop on some of my webinars, and they just kind of sneak in and they say hi to the audience, and just because they want to feel like they're connected to someone. So the voice is your power is important. It's a grand theme to give kids the power to believe in themselves through their voices.
Never let anyone put you in a corner. Like it gives me chills every time I hear you say that. The other thing that I want you to share with the audience, because it's so powerful and I love it every time that you tell me about it, you talk about you and me and us and them and we. I've got about 3 minutes. Share that story.
With everything that's been going on, the pain that we have all felt, and we've all felt it on different levels, the conversations I have with other students, the conversations I've had with my kids, and people ask me, what are you doing in 2021? I said, what am I not doing? I've learned from 2020 not to take anything for granted, not to think social justice for granted, not to take my livelihood for granted, not to take the time with my family for granted. So we are going all out and we're designing new programs. And one of the programs we were working on is called Unity, YOUNITY. And it's really about teaching our young people and our adults, if they're listening, how to find that common ground, that compromise, not that easy stuff, right? Not that do you want cheese or not cheese, right? Even though that can be a very difficult conversation, but that compromise that hurts, that compromise that hurts, that brings us to the center place, and it hurts so much that we fight to keep it because it's so important to us. We've forgotten that. We've been polarized in almost every level. It's why we are where we are. So we want to create unity, because unity, it starts with me. I'm trying to understand you and me, right? We get together, we talk, and we vibe, and just like that phone conversation we had, PC, man, we could have 2 motivational speakers on the phone, bro. We could talk for days, right? You know, and that you and me become us, right? And we're like, yo, we boys, we tight, we us. And then we have to look, with every us, there's a them, right? And then the them and the us have gone so far apart that we want to bring them together, because if we could take us and them and bring them together, we create we. And we are greater, we are stronger, we are better together, right? You see it all the time when people come together. I was mentoring a nonprofit organization called the Philadelphia Music Exchange. And what they did, PC, is they took kids, predominantly white students from the suburbs, and they took predominantly Black and brown students from the inner city, and they brought them together to make music and to learn about each other, to bridge the gap to social justice. And I'm telling you, PC, the music was off the hook. It was beautiful. It was uplifting. It was beautiful, and it was amazing. But it was amazing because these kids came together and they did it, and they learned from each other. Because together we are better, right? And that's what unity is about. It's about you, me, us, them, all together to form we. Because we can do just about anything together.
I love it, dude. Like I said, every single time that I talk to you, I just get chill bumps. Chu, I just want to say thank you for making the time to be a part of this. Thank you for everything that you do, because you inspire, like, oh my gosh, when we talk and you talk about all the events and all the things that you have going on with Cool Speak and with your organization, like the impact that you're making. I know a lot of times, because you're just like me, you don't really stop to really think, to soak it all in. But I hope that you make some time every now and then just to realize the impact that you continue to make on so many lives around the world, my guy.
Oh, thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. Everybody that was on here, the panel, the energy, let's keep it going to 2021. All right, let's turn the page. Let's move forward together. Thank you, PC. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. Hey, thanks for being a part of this.
Take care.
All right, my guys. Carlos Ojeda Jr., like I said, one of the most passionate, one of the most inspirational people like that I have ever had the opportunity to meet. If you've never heard him speak in full before, highly recommend you check him out, connect with him. He is a powerful, powerful speaker with a powerful story to tell. Now, in the chat box, what I want to hear right now, something that you've improved on during the pandemic. Again, we all know, like, it's easy to be negative, all the bad things, all the bad stuff, whatever. But what is something that you've improved on? What's an area that you've grown and gotten better, either as an educator or as a student leader? I would love for you to share that right now in the chat box. As you're doing that, we're going to get ready to welcome in our next guest. And when I announced her on social media, I said it like this: if I had a Mount Rushmore of school leadership, she would undoubtedly be on it. Julie Diaz is a former principal at, I think, all 3 levels, but I met her as a principal at Travis High School just outside of Houston, Texas, here just a few years back. She's also an Iowa Hawkeye alumnus, and which is a huge deal because my grandma graduated from Iowa in 1954. And Eric Lillis, who is tuning in, he's a superintendent in Kingman, Arizona, also graduated from the University of Iowa, so go Hawks. I was bummed. I was so excited that they got to go to Nashville for their bowl game, and then the bowl game got canceled, and I was like, oh, that stinks. But Julie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you? Can you hear me?
Awesome. I can.
Good.
Yeah, I can hear you. And so you're on the road. Actually, you're traveling. Where are you?
So I live, outside of Austin now, but I'm traveling. I'm in Porter, Texas. I'm going to train some APs tomorrow in New Caney ISD. So I'm going to give a shout out to New Caney. I don't know if anybody's on here from there. Yeah, so I'm in a hotel room. So if there's some background noise, there's some kids running up and down the hall. I'm like, wait, it's COVID still. Why are there kids running up and down the hall here?
Right. You're like, what's going on? No, it's okay. It's all good. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate you making the time to join us here. I want to talk to you about something that you're passionate about, which is organizational transformation. And Dwight talked about this a little bit earlier in that he said, whenever this whole thing ends and we do get to come back, to be very leery of coming back, and just going back to the old ways and the way that it was. This is an opportunity in the world of education that we've never had before, because it's a chance to pivot and to do things differently. What do you hope to see that's different in the world of education as we come out of this?
Well, I totally agree with Dwight. The company that I'm working for, Into Learning, we talk about not running back to what we did, because we've learned so much and we have to lean into the future. And I think we've all learned that it's really relationships before curriculum. It's love before curriculum. And, there's so many things people didn't think they could do. As I'm working with administrators, last year we were working and we were talking about things. And one of the things that we talk about is cultural transformation or transforming schools. And one of our things we talk about is digital learning. And last year in August, some of the groups were saying, oh, this will never happen. We'll never do virtual learning. We'll never give opportunities for kids to learn at home. Here we are, right? And we were pushed into it, of course, so I think if we can just continually step out and take those risks, we all like to stay in the comfort zone, but that's not where you grow. You grow when you're in discomfort. And I think, you're right. I was an elementary principal, middle school principal, high school principal, never wanted to be a high school principal ever, right? That's out of my comfort zone. Totally loved it. I wasn't like pushed off the ledge to go do that, but I was pushed, gently, supported to do that. And I loved it. So I just feel like when we go back, all these things, as a high school principal, we had kiddos who wouldn't come to school for a variety of reasons. Maybe they had families they were raising themselves. Maybe they were working and they had to support something. And we always talked about, why can't they do their work at home? No, they have to come in this building to have attendance, because that's how you get your money in Texas, right? And so now look at what we're doing. There's so many other kids that are getting education that didn't before. They were dropping out and things. I always talk to people about the University of Phoenix. They laughed at it when it first came. It's an online college. People are like, oh, who's going to go to college online? Look at that, y'all. It's the most enrollment of any college anywhere, because I can be a mom. I can do things. I can go to work full time and support my family, and I can go to college. So I think if we can just continually think of different ways to do things, that's what I hope that we run to. And I'm going to run to it too.
Right. Exactly. Two of the things that I always like to do on every single campus that I step foot on, I always go into the student restrooms, because that tells me a lot about what's going on at that school. And I love to just talk to random students that are walking down the hall and just ask them, like, tell me, what's it like? What does it mean to you to be a Travis Tiger, right? And I can vividly remember being at Travis High School and talking to a young man, and he was telling me about, just a random conversation. And he's going to the University of Louisiana Lafayette, and he wasn't an athlete. He wasn't like the star football player. He was just a regular run-of-the-mill Joe, right? But he was so proud of being a Travis Tiger. So 2 or 3 steps, ideas, tools, how do you create that culture on your campus?
That's a great question, PC. And I think it all, that's when I went to Travis. We had to do something. We had to do some things immediately. No one's fault where it was, but we were at the bottom of the district in attendance and things. So listen to your kids, first of all. It's their school. Like, so many times we do school to kids, we tell kids, and I remember talking to some kids like, look, you just got to play the school game and get out of here, right? And so listen to the kids. Listen to your teachers, obviously, and support the teachers. But I think it's the looking at school differently. Someone on here just said, I look through adult eyes. That's how all of us go. think about, we've always talked about getting our schools out of rows and things because that's, the school was made back in the 20s to come to school. We're still there. Well, now we're not. So listen to your students. We truly had a principals advisory committee, and I asked some questions. One was, what do we do well at Travis High School? And I asked students, teachers, and adults, in our campus-based leadership that's made of community members. What do we do well at Travis High School? Second question is, what do we need to do better? Or what do we need to focus on as we move forward? Don't say, what do we not do well? Because then you're going to run down that negative path and you're never going to get out of it. So what do we need to focus on as we move forward? Because that's where you're supposed to be taking an organization, right? What is your role going to be in moving this organization forward? And last is, what do you need from me as your administrator to move it forward? And really, if you're going to ask those questions, someone else already said this, you've got to listen to it and you've got to take action. You can't just put all those answers in a binder and say, okay, well, I asked him and I listened to him. Well, you've got to do something. I did that with a group of students. We had 125 come after school one day. We did this. There were little things immediately we could address. Then there were some things that were bigger things. And we had to take some time, and we had some students make leadership groups to get things done. So I think those are the questions that have always guided my leadership, whether I was in elementary, middle, or high school. And with high school, it was a lot more of the student voice than it was in the younger ages.
And something else that you were great at, Julie, was creating traditions. And so you had your mantra of the "We are one," "We are family," "We are Tigers," but then you also have the song. And I want you to talk about the song and when it comes on and the dance, and how did that even start?
So you know what, we were going into a school year much like this year. It was an election year. There was a police shooting in Dallas in July of that year. And I did a lot of soul searching. First of all, we had a student leader group, and it was called Ambush because we're the Tigers, and a group of Tigers, when they come together, is called Ambush. But the headline of every single newspaper in July was Ambush, and it was a very negative thing. So when we brought students together, we had a training and we brought them together, and I said, you know what, we cannot control what people are talking about in their homes, what they're thinking. We can't control who they're voting for. But when we come to this campus, what we do control is how we're going to treat each other. So we talked a lot about that, PC. You've got to talk to your kids about that. You can't tell them how to do things. You've got to work with them. Besides the fact that you're modeling what you want them to do as they get older and, they're taking care of us, right? And so we worked really intentionally hard on that. And the kids came up with that mantra, we are one, we're Tigers. And then I just probably messed that up. We are one, okay, Donish, if you're in there, put it in the chat. But we painted that on the walls, and we could not just have them as words on the wall. So I talked about it all the time on morning announcements. I was on the morning announcements every day because the kids needed to hear their leader, and I'm their leader, but they're my kids. So I'm leading them together with them. So it was kind of, the leadership from them to me also. So, but that's what we did. We had to intentionally work on how we were going to treat each other. And PC, that was student to student, that was student to teacher, and teacher to teacher, and teacher to student. We worked on all of that. So we never took anything for granted. Every faculty meeting, we started with a leadership lesson for the teachers. It was one they were going to turn around to give to the students, but we all needed it as adults too. So, yeah.
So cool. And that mural that you're talking about at your school, I've got a picture of it on my phone. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And I know that for my kids, "Don't Stop Believing" was always our song. It's like the rest of their lives, when they hear that song, they're going to think about their high school experience. And for you, it's "Can't Stop the Feeling." And when they hear that song, for the rest of their lives, they're always going to go back to their memories of Travis High School. And I just think that is so cool. And Julie, I just want to say again, this, I think the absolute world of you. Thank you for making the time. Like I said, I know that you're on the road, but it means the world to me that you shared your passion and your wisdom with us here tonight.
Thanks, PC. You guys are amazing. And I wouldn't be where I am either without you guys. And every single person here is amazing. In the chat, on the panel, amazing.
Well, thanks, Julie. And good luck tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff there. Julie Diaz, if you ever get the chance to visit Travis High School just outside of Houston, Texas, it is one of my top 10 schools on the planet to visit. It is just an awesome, awesome culture and an awesome, awesome environment. Poll question, last poll question of the night. This one is, it's getting hot in here. When you're sleeping, which kind of person are you? Do you always have the fan on or you have the fan off? Interested to see what happens here with this. When you're sleeping, which kind of person are you? Do you always have to have a fan on or you have the fan off? Those results are coming in. I'll give it about 5 more seconds here to vote, and then we will display those results here right now. Looks like most of you are fan on. I'm the same way. Like I've got to have a white noise or a noise machine going. I've got to have something going in order for me to sleep. Looks like 63% of you guys are with the fan on here as well. All right, we're grinding. We've got 2 guests left. I'm super excited. Our next guest is a guy, I had the opportunity to meet him through my connection with Mike Smith. He is from Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, he was going to speak earlier in the day, but then we had to push him back to later in the day because he is an ESPN basketball analyst, and they had a basketball game that they had to call earlier in the day. So right now, I'm super excited to welcome to the broadcast Kyler Erickson, one of the nicest, kindest people. Who got the hashtag Be Kind shirt. He's still at the arena right now. And my dude, Kyler, what's happening, man?
BC, man, you look great. You've been working out.
Yeah.
The first thing, yeah, man. Hey, just to like calm the waters, I was actually born in Iowa. I know we have a lot of Hawkeyes in here, so like I'm one of you guys, all right? So I live in Nebraska, but was born in Iowa. Nonetheless, man, super excited to be with you. I just wrapped up this game at 4 o'clock, changed my clothes, ready to roll, and have been loving the speakers. I heard the last 3 or 4 and have had a blast even the last, 30, 40 minutes.
I love it, dude. Well, I appreciate you being flexible with your schedule. I know like you're waiting on the game time to be announced and then some COVID cancellations and all that good stuff. Tell us about the game that you just called. Who was playing? What happened?
Yeah, so I primarily work for the University of Nebraska, Omaha. They are in the Summit League here, and so this was, because of COVID, they're doing double headers, and so there was supposed to be a girls game. The girls team had COVID cases, so they moved the boys game up to 4 o'clock, and so I had to shift my time frame around, but nonetheless, we're here, man. Nebraska Omaha lost, but it's not the commentator's fault, right? Like that's not on us. And so again, super glad to be here, man. It's great to see you even virtually, and excited to get to chat with everybody.
No, totally, man. So Kyler, you had an experience that you don't wish on anybody during your high school career, in that you were a witness to a school shooting. You were literally there in the front office when it happened. And then from that, there were some mental health issues that you dealt with for a long time, just on your own. And it's one of those things where people always say it's okay to not be okay, but it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually try to live that and to admit that, hey, I need some help here. Talk about how you came to grips with that and how other people can come to grips with that as well.
Yeah, man, you said it best. And so for me, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression following that school shooting. Was just a few feet away from everything that happened in my high school that day. And for me, it became this thing. It was like because I knew how fast life can go and how quick it can end, right? Like I saw it a few feet away. And so for me, it was this decision. It was this choice. It's like, I have to make something more in my life. Like I have to, if I didn't make it out of my high school that day, was I proud of the person that I was? And my answer back then was no. Like I was this jock. I led the state of Nebraska in scoring, and I did a lot on the court, but it was like, if I didn't make it out of school that day, that's what I would be known for. And that didn't sit right with me. Like I didn't want to be known as an athlete or a jock. And so I just made this choice in my head. It was like, as long as I'm on this earth, like God willing, however long I'm alive, I'm going to do something with my life so that when I get to be at the end of my life, like when I'm 90 years old, I can't remember my first name. People will look back at my life and say, that guy did something. Like this guy helped me. There'll be kids, students, as you know, we traveled the country, hundreds of thousands of kids these last 6 or 7 years. Those kids will be able to say, Tyler wasn't a basketball player. I didn't even know he played basketball. He changed my life. He came, he told our story. He told us he was really messed up, PTSD, depression, anxiety, whatever it is. And that's what I'm trying to do, because the question for me is like, how do we change the world? And I think the easiest answer is we share our stories. Like there's power in us being vulnerable and saying, I'm really messed up. And so what I do, I go into these schools and it's like, my name's Kyler Erickson. The moral of the story, I was really messed up. I got help. My life changed. And I did something with that story because so many times we put these kids in a box, as you know, PC, and we tell them to get the perfect job and the perfect grades. But it's like, most kids don't want that, right? Like they want a purpose. They want something to stand on, a foundation that at the end of their life, they can look back and say, that is awesome, something they're proud of it. And that was the choice I made. It's like, I'm going to do something much more than basketball. I'm gonna talk about suicide prevention and PTSD, anxiety, and help as many people as I can.
So awesome, man. And like you said, the impact that you've made and that you'll continue to make. And so you got help. But I think the key to this whole thing is it's never really over. It's an ongoing process. And with mental health really being at the forefront right now in light of COVID, what are some things that you do? What are some things that other people can do to help to maintain that mental health moving forward?
I think this is the most important thing, especially for teachers and administrators, because you all, it seems like you're working 100 different jobs within your one job. The most important thing we all can do, and this sounds crazy, but it's to put yourself first. Like, you have to do whatever you need to take care of yourself. Like, you know, and here's why, because, you know, it's like when lifeguards, when they save people, and if you can still see me, but when lifeguards go to save somebody, they'll put their foot out. It's like, hey, look, I'll save you. And I'll do this with you, but I have to put myself first, right? Because if we both drown, then that's no good. And it's the same thing with teachers and administrators. It's like, you guys got to take care of yourself, because if you guys drown, then everybody else drowns. And so I think that's what we need more of, is putting you guys first, because when we do that, and for me, it's working out. Like, it's hanging out with my friends and family. I've got 2 little nephews that, you know, I love to play catch with and throw the football around, but it's like, whatever gets you going, like whatever wakes you up in the day, that's what we need more of. And then I think there's a ton of benefits to eating healthy and to working out and whatever makes you go. But you got to put yourself first, because otherwise everybody drowns. And when everybody drowns, that's no good.
So true, man. You're getting all kinds of awesome feedback in the chat box from that right there with putting yourself first. Give me 60 seconds, Kyler, on something that you're looking forward to for 2021.
You know, I think the one good thing out of this whole pandemic and everything that's going on is we have really found the goal and the purpose, the power of collaboration and of coming together as a whole, because we live in the greatest country in the world. Like, we live in the United States, where things are normally so good that we're always nitpicking at each other. Like, things are so good that we find things to fight about. Well, when this pandemic hit, it's like, well, we need each other, right? Like, we have no choice but to rely on each other, to depend on each other, because our main goal when this started was to get through it. So for me, like, I have a ton of hope for us, for humanity. It's like, I don't buy the doom and gloom. I don't buy that things are horrible and the world is ending and we live in the worst country. I don't buy any of that. Like, I think the U.S., I'm glad to be here. I love this country. It's the greatest country in the world. There's hope. I look to the future. It's like, that's where we're going, and I'm excited for it. So again, I really appreciate you, man. I'm hopeful. I love humans. I think we're good at heart. Like, I really do. You ask your neighbor for some sugar, they're going to give it to you if they have any, right? And if not, like, they should probably get some sugar. But nonetheless, I love people, man, and I'm hopeful. I really am.
I love it, dude. Well, Kyler, thank you again for making the time. Like I said, I know it was kind of crazy with shuffling schedules around or whatever. You know what I think about you, dude, man. And I can't wait to get to see you again. Give you a big old hug, my guy.
Thanks so much. I love you guys. Thank you, Pacey.
Right. Love you too. See you, Kyler. Kyler Erickson, former basketball player at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. Now he does a lot of commentating for ESPN. Just a genuine human being and a great speaker. If you're looking for somebody to come in to speak at your school, especially around mental health, he's got a powerful, powerful story here. Last question for the chat box that I want you to blow up right here is your go-to karaoke song. Even if you don't sing karaoke, if you had to sing karaoke, what would be your go-to karaoke song? So I'm interested to hear those responses in the chat box here right now. I see Sweet Caroline. That's always a classic there. Mustang Sally. That's a good one. Bust a Move. Young MC. You're going old school right there, Farah. I was so scared of getting in trouble. I think I had that cassette tape when I was in the 1st grade or the 2nd grade. And I had a buddy named Scott Collins. And I was always so scared that I was going to get in trouble for listening to Young MC back in the day. I see Don't Stop Believing. There you go, Julie, Talking to My Heart. That's life. Your go-to karaoke song. Okay. Now, we're getting ready to wrap this thing up with our final guest of the night. And I am so excited. I'm like total fanboy here on this one. Back in 2011, I went to a conference and I walked into a room where Mark Scharenbroich was speaking. And I had no expectations because for me, most of the time, professional development and conferences that I went to weren't very good. And I walked into this room, like I said, with no expectations. And I laughed and I cried and I walked out of there. I walked out of there as a different human being, and I wouldn't be the man that I am today, I wouldn't be the educator that I am today if I hadn't walked into that room and gotten to hear Mark Scharenbroich speak. And so I am so excited right now to welcome Mark to the show here. And Mark, thank you so much. I sent him an email and I said, this might be a long shot. And within 30 minutes, you wrote me back, and I was just like through the roof when you said yes, you would be a part of it. So Mark, I just want to say welcome and thanks for being a part of it here tonight.
Oh, thanks, PC. It's sweet. As Kyle said, share the sugar, baby.
Right. Pass some sugar around. Now, what part of Minnesota are you in?
The cold part. It's all cold right now. Minnesota landed 10,000 lakes, all of them frozen. I mean, we walk on water. What can I say?
Yeah, I hear you. So I moved here. I live in Rosemount, which is a little bit south of Minneapolis.
Oh, the Rose, yeah.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago. I'm from Tennessee. And so you can imagine the climate shock that this has been for me.
Well, we don't talk about how many years people live in Minnesota. They say how many winters.
How many winters? That makes a whole lot of sense. But I'm getting pretty good at the snowblower now.
That's good. Go back to shovel, old school, man. But thanks for your nice comments. So sweet. I love speaking at those events.
Well, yeah, like I said, I am like so excited that you're a part of this. I want you to share. You talk a lot about connections and the nice bike story, and I've heard it probably 100 times, and there's still parts that make me laugh every single time and that make me cry every single time, and I know what's coming. Talk about the importance of connections and how we can continue to foster those even during a pandemic.
I've noticed in the chat line tonight, a lot of people are recommending books. I just finished this one I would tell you about to lead into it. Team of Rivals, about Abraham Lincoln, by the amazing Doris Kearns Goodwin, one of the greatest writers in the world, Pulitzer Prize winner. If you want to learn about leadership and working with other people, this is the book to go to. I mean, it's a haul. You'll be at it. I was. But malice towards none, charity for all. Incredible. Nice bike. So I'm speaking to educators in Neenah, Wisconsin, and I fly from my home in Minneapolis to Milwaukee, rent a car from Avis, a beige Ford Taurus, nice car. And I'm driving through, and I realize I've just stumbled into the Harley Davidson 100th year anniversary. 500,000 hardcore, all leather, tattooed, attitude filled, chain on the wallet type thing, Harley riders. I've never been on a Harley. Never dreamed of having a Harley. I'm not a Harley kind of a guy. But that day, my beige Taurus, I wanted a Harley. I want to be Harley, part of the Harley tribe. I want to see my wife Susan in shiny black leather in the back of a Harley. But that's a different issue. And there's all these venues going on my drive north to Neenah. And I pulled over because I'm curious, like a lot of people tonight are. Oh, the name of the first book was Team of Rivals, Doris Kearns Goodwin. And I remember seeing this big, right out of Game of Thrones, huge, bearded, strong Harley guy by his bike. And the stranger walked by him, looked at him, and went, nice bike. And suddenly there was this instant connection made between the two, and they started chatting. The guy told a story about his bike and his father, how he got into Harley. It's not about the bike, it's about the connection. And the next day I was speaking to the educators and I said, tomorrow's the first day of school. When a student walks into your classroom and you're by the door, instead of saying hi, like a flight attendant, hello, hi, say, hey, Philip Campbell, oh my gosh, you're my class this year. It's so good to see you. That's nice bike. It's making this connection with others. So that's what it's all about for me. And I've built on that concept.
It's so powerful, and just the story that everything that goes with that. It's one of those things. And so that first year that we came to the conference and saw you speak there, that next school year, we always have a theme, and our theme was nice bike, and we had shirts made that had motorcycles on them and all that good. I've actually got a picture on my phone of me and you. I had a bandana on, my nice bike shirt on. Like that's one of those things that I'll always keep. I want to end this thing with a powerful story that I heard you share. I was listening to you speak at the Activities Directors Association conference here a few weeks back, and you shared just a powerful story about your mother and about her hearing aid and the words open it. And I just think that's a great way for us to end this evening here that we've had, if you wouldn't mind sharing that story.
I'd be happy to. First of all, you have to understand, how much time are we looking at, PC?
As far as I'm concerned, you can talk as long as you want to. Let's go 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll do 4.5. Okay. I mean, keep in mind, for any student that's out there, any educator, I was never in student council junior high, never in student council my freshman year, sophomore year in high school, because Chip Rice always got nominated out of our homeroom every year. He was cute. And Chip was sick that day when nominations happened, and my buddy Rick Royza nominated me instead. You know, I'm thinking to myself, great, I get to go into a club that hangs crepe paper and does canned food drives. I was not excited about it. But Ed Johnson, the advisor, opened my eyes to what leadership, student council, creating a culture of connections is all about. Ed sent me to the state student council convention, just like you brought your kids to the Renaissance for Jostens. I went to the summer leadership workshop where I met my wife. I went into speaking early on and spoken over 3,500 high schools. You know, what had happened if Chip hadn't been sick that day? Would I've gone to that camp? Would I've been involved in student leadership? Would I have met my wife, Susie? Would I have spoken in 3,500 schools? I don't know. But it's because Ed Johnson, once I got there, he opened it for me. And it's, as far as my mom goes, I mean, Aggie was an amazing woman. She was a cafeteria lady, not the person that prepares the food, but just cleans up after kids with a washcloth, opens up their milk cartons. They called her Aggie the retainer lady because she saved retainers for kids. I mean, they would wrap up the retainers at lunchtime, put it on their tray, go over the garbage, throw it in, come back to my mom and say, Aggie, I lost another retainer. And she'd go digging in and save retainers every year. And every time she did, the cooks would come out and say, Aggie, we saw you digging the garbage again. We'd never do that. And Aggie said, oh, they're kids. I'll always do that. And she always had a pocket full of Hershey Kisses because if it was your birthday, you got a kiss from Aggie. I mean, some kids said 7 birthdays a year. We lost Dad when he was about 82 and Mom when she was 97, just a couple of years ago. I mean, she was so healthy in her own home, taking care of everything. I mean, doing quilts for people with arthritis in her hands. I mean, she was a giver in life. Couldn't get rid of a cough, went to the hospital, found out it was pneumonia. They found out that the breast cancer had come back and she was pretty much riddled. And said, Aggie, what do you want to do? And she said, I think I'll go home. Literally and figuratively. And Susie and I had the opportunity of taking care of her the last 3 nights. And from the time that she was diagnosed to the time that we said goodbye, it was only 2.5 weeks. And it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. Mom loved routines. And so we would, the same things that she did for us when we were kids. She'd always say before we went to bed, tell me something good that happened today. And then we'd always do the angel prayer. Angel of God, my guardian dear. And good night, Mom, we love you. But one of the things that Mom also had me do was take out her hearing aid. And as I did, she said, oh, Mark, open it. Mom, open it. What do you mean, Mom? Saves the batteries. I mean, the greatest generation that went through the Depression, World War II, saved the batteries. Well, the last night she started to go on the journey and didn't speak very much, very peaceful. And we went through the routine of the glaucoma drops and the angel prayer and Mom, maybe here's the people that came to visit with you today. And her eyes were very kind of in a deep sleep. As we walked away, Susie said, oh, did you get your hearing aid? I said, oh, I forgot. So I went back and kind of talked louder. Mom, I'm gonna get your hearing aid now. And for the first time in hours, her eyes opened up. She said, oh, open it. I mean, my mom's last words to me were, open it. I was kind of hoping for, you've always been my favorite, or there's a box in the closet. But Mom's words to me were, open it. And I cannot think of a greater legacy or 2 more amazing words than open it. It's what Ed Johnson did for me when I was in student council that changed my life. It's what educators do for kids. They open it, they open opportunities. If you want to hear someone, you have to open it to reach out to others and connect in a meaningful way. So that's the greatest gift my mom ever gave me.
Well, Mark, I told you I was going to try not to ugly cry when I was talking to you to hear that story, because when you said it the first time, I was sitting on my couch and I was just ugly crying. And I was like, it's a powerful story. And like I said, in 2011, when I walked into that room, you opened it for me. And I literally can't tell you how grateful I am for you. And I know that I'm not the only one out there that could share a similar story, but the impact that you've made on me and on so many educators and on so many student leaders, literally, I wouldn't be standing here right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for you. And so thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for making the time to be a part of this event here tonight, Mark. It means the world to me.
Thanks, PC. And thank you all for taking some time out to sit in. It's been an honor.
I love it, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Mark Scharenbroich, my personal favorite speaker on the planet. And like I said, I've heard him speak probably 50 times. And most of the stories I've heard 50 times, but I still laugh and I still cry each and every single time. If you've never had the opportunity to listen to him speak or bring him to your school, highly, highly recommend that you do it. If you don't have his book called Nice Bike, it is a must buy as well. I hope that tonight has been everything that you hoped it would be. I hope that it's been full of positivity and hope and inspiration and laughter, because that is all that I set out to do when we're putting this together. I had no idea what the reaction would be. I had no idea if anybody, how many people would sign up for this, and to have almost 500 people from every single state in Canada and Germany and Luxembourg and the Netherlands to register and to be a part of this, it means the absolute world to me. I wish you all nothing but the absolute best school semester that's coming up, and the best rest of your educational career and of your career as a student leader. And to every single one of you that's watching this right now, I see you, I hear you, and more than you will ever know, I love you for the positive impact you're going to continue to make on your schools and on your communities. Chase your dreams, kids. Peace.
Just a small town.